Amelia Gentleman.
That's right.
And in the initial coverage, she didn't even mention that her father-in-law, I believe, Stanley Johnson, obviously the father of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, a very influential member of the Tory party. She didn't mention that he was a member, which I find bizarre. It's something that should have gone on that list if it was a list of influential members, which it was.
So hang on a minute, who's that?
Amelia Gentleman wrote the story in The Guardian. She's married to Joe Johnson, Boris's brother.
Boris's brother.
And so Stanley is a member of the Garret, but she omitted that from her piece.
Ah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the majority of British women won't have even heard of the Garret Club, nor any sort of private members' clubs in London. It's a very kind of elite inside thing.
It's actors, lawyers, writers.
And I think they absolutely have their place, especially for networking with people in different careers or the same career as you. I think they have their place, holding charity events, that kind of thing, and conferences.
We already have members' clubs mixed, and that stuff is still not happening. Just putting men and women together in this one space isn't going to help women in terms of cross-gender networking.
It's 9:30 on Thursday, the 16th of May. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Very good morning. So, a big day for Labour. Starmer's 6 pledges. The Labour leader is going to reveal his multi-point plan to rebuild Britain, including provisions for Great British Energy and recruiting 6,500 new teachers. But is it all going to be talk and no action?
And the Royal Mail takeover. Can you believe it? The postal service owner is poised to accept a £3.5 billion takeover bid from a Czech billionaire who doesn't even live in this country. Should we let foreign companies own our essential state services? No.
And UK-Ireland migration row. As it's revealed that Britain has taken back 50 migrants from the Republic of Ireland after a large-scale diplomatic row, and the Prime Minister refusing to take back any, does this embarrassing U-turn show Sunak is sunk?
And the Queen, like the Queen Elizabeth, she's shunning fur. She's pledged to buy no new fur products for her wardrobe. According to the animal rights group PETA, we'll have the latest and we'll ask, should the bearskin caps of the Royal Guards also now be replaced?
I don't know whether you saw those shocking pictures yesterday of the Slovakian Prime Minister being shot.
3 times.
Absolutely. It's going to be a press conference, which is going to be within our show to let us know how he is doing. So we'll bring you the latest on that.
Absolutely.
Right, let us know your thoughts this morning. gbnews.com/your say. First, though, the very latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Very good morning. It's 9:31. Aaron Armstrong here in the GB Newsroom. Cutting NHS waiting lists and improving economic stability will be among the top election pledges unveiled by Labour today. Sir Keir Starmer will use a speech in Essex to lay out 6 promises, which will also include a new border security command to tackle people smuggling gangs. There will also be a commitment to set up a publicly owned energy firm called Great British Energy, as well as a strategy to crack down on antisocial behaviour. The government has called it another relaunch and says it's not a coherent plan. The Education Secretary says controversial changes to sex education will still allow children to explore ideas and have contested debates. It's after the government outlined proposals that would see sex ed banned for children under the age of 9. Gillian Keegan says she's seen evidence of some pupils being taught there are 72 genders and ideology shouldn't be taught as fact. Causing death or injury by dangerous cycling is to become a new offence, punishable by up to 14 years in prison. MPs have voted in favour of an amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill, which is making its way through Parliament, following campaigning by Sir Ian Duncan-Smith. The former Tory leader says the change is urgent and not anti-cycling. Critics, though, have pointed out more people are killed by cows or lightning every year, and laws already exist to prosecute dangerous cyclists. Slovakia's Deputy Prime Minister says Robert Fico remains in a very serious but stable condition after he was shot several times yesterday in an attempted assassination. At least 4 shots were fired at the Prime Minister in the town of Handlova, where the 59-year-old was meeting supporters. A 71-year-old suspect is now in custody. The Interior Minister believes the attack was politically motivated. Slovakia has scaled back its support for Ukraine while opening dialogue with Russia. We'll have more news throughout the morning here on GB News, or you can sign up to our alerts by using the QR code on your screen. Now, it's back to Andrew and Bev.
Very good morning, 9:34. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Bev Turner, and Andrew Pierce.
Well, it's a big day for Labour today because Keir Starmer is going to unveil 6 election pledges reminiscent of Tony Blair's pledge card back in '97 as part of his doorstep pitch to voters in election year.
They include maintaining economic stability, cutting NHS waiting times, launching a new border command force, setting up great British energy, cracking down on antisocial behaviour and recruiting 6,500 new teachers. But can he deliver on these?
Well, joining us now in the studio is political editor of the Daily Express, Sam Lister, and the former Labour advisor, Stella Chadakidu. Have I pronounced that correctly?
You pronounced it perfectly.
Thank you. Let's go to you first, Sam. There's not a new policy here.
No.
And they've not quite got the pledge card, and it's not quite Ed Miliband's Ed Stone, which we all mocked, of course. Yeah. But it is still snappy 6 pledges.
It is.
But nothing new.
Six pledges, but we're not allowed to call them pledges. We're not allowed to call it a pledge card.
Right.
It's first steps for government.
Right. Well, let's call it a pledge card, because they can't tell us what we're
it looks like a pledge card. Yeah. It smells like a pledge card. It's a pledge card.
It is a pledge
so let's
card.
go with that.
Yeah.
6 pledges. The new bit of this is the stuff on migration. Obviously, clearly a big issue for many voters.
Yeah.
And it follows on from Keir Starmer's speech last week, where he announced this new border command. I mean, let's be honest, this is just pulling together government policy and branding it under a new
It's another Quango.
Basically. And what it doesn't say on the pledge card is obviously that he would ditch the Rwanda policy, even if it's successful, so even if we get a few flights off, and that does stem the tide, which we've obviously seen people hopping over to Ireland because they're already afraid of this, but obviously that isn't included in that he would ditch that. It's a bit of a rebrand. Obviously, it puts him... There's a big picture of Keir Starmer wearing his snazzy glasses, his hair all kind of gel, looking very kind of, statesman-like, they would hope, and that takes up most of the card. And they're putting him front and centre of this. They've made a conscious decision to make this a kind of presidential campaign.
Because he still isn't cutting through with voters. That's
He's
what
not,
the polls are showing.
but they've realised that if you are going to win this election, you have to make it about the man who is going to be the next Prime Minister, and that is either Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer. And so they've had to put him right at the heart of this. They want to promote him.
Yeah.
Stella, do you think there are many points of difference here between these two men? We're looking at screen here, Starmer and Sunak. Looking at these pledges, they're not that different, are they, to the Conservatives?
Oh, I would say they're extremely different.
Okay.
For one, because they show a very coherent vision that Keir Starmer has set out, which I don't think we got from Rishi Sunak in his speech last week. I mean, he threw everything but the kitchen sink at the speech that he gave last week. He wanted the main message to be security, but he was also talking about a lot of tiny things like cancel culture, for example, which I was not sure what was its place in a prime ministerial speech given to the whole nation. Now, I think what's very interesting about Keir Starmer's pledge cards, and I do agree that there is a bit of political nostalgia when it comes to pledge cards, because Tony Blair did it in 1997. A lot of people think that this helped him boost his election victory, and so Labour leaders feel like they have to do this every time. But I think this is more than anything a campaigning event. The Labour Party has put more money here than they've put in anything else in the last few years.
But what about workers' rights? This was meant to be the flagship policy. Within 100 days, they were going to transform workers' rights. You wouldn't be able to send anybody an email after 5 p.m. Big part of Angela Rayner's pitch, not mentioned on
and
the
big
6
part
pledges.
of Starmerism, for sure,
Where's
the
it
Common
gone?
Good project.
Why is it not on this pledge list?
My interpretation is the reason why it's not on the pledge card is because so Keir Starmer met with TUC union leaders on Tuesday. We know that the results were very positive. They were all happy. They were all satisfied. No one came out with a press release saying workers' rights were diluted. So I think what's going on here is Keir Starmer is saying what the public is still not sure about is that we will tackle immigration and the border crisis better than Keir Starmer. So we're going to come up with this campaigning pledge card, and the 6th one, the new one, will be about border control, and this is our plan for the borders.
Nothing on housing.
Nothing on housing.
I thought that was a major pledge too.
Housing is supposed to be the big issue. of this general election. Absolutely nothing on this.
Because they're going to change the planning laws, which good luck with that.
Yeah.
The planning system, good
How
luck
many
with that.
times have we heard that before?
Millions of times, but nothing on housing.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a disappointment, do you think, to some Labour MPs?
I think it's a huge disappointment. I think there's also a lot of disappointment on the left about the fact that the Great British Energy Pledge number 4, they feel that that's not strong enough on green issues, for example. So there is quite a lot of kind of upset on the left about this. But then you've also got this kind of vague, let's cut NHS waiting times.
How?
Now, obviously,
How?
exactly.
It begs the question, doesn't
But
it?
also, Bev, there is this issue, isn't there? That obviously, the junior doctors are still on strike. Now, they've gone into mediation only last night with the government, so that is a positive sign.
Yeah.
But if that isn't resolved, is Keir Starmer going to come in and pay that 35% that the junior doctors are demanding to settle this and cut those waiting lists? There's none of that on this pledge card, is there? There's a lot of detail missing.
Is he still playing it very safe, Stella?
Exactly
Not
what he's
to
doing.
upset anybody. Let's just go brushstrokes. All I've got to do is just sit here and not mess up for another few months, and then I'm in. He's just keeping it quiet.
No, but I think, Sam, you haven't been paying attention. He has been giving plenty of details on all of these policies over the last few months. On the NHS, Wes Streeting has been talking about reform and bureaucracy and how she's going to have more appointments during the evenings and during the weekends. You asked about planning. Well, there was the brilliant policy, in my opinion, about building on grey zones, giving
Well, why
councils...
isn't it on the pledge card?
Because the
These are
pledge card
major
is
issues.
Well,
These
he's
are
not going
major-
to have a
these are-
12...
Well, hang on, housing is a key,
campaigning
housing
tool?
is a cornerstone of what Labour's
Absolutely,
doing, and it's not mentioned on the pledge
And
list.
Rachel Reeves, who will also be making a speech today, and you will see it from shadow cabinet members going in front of the cameras today. I'm sure they will be talking plenty about the housing building that needs to happen. But this is a campaigning tool, so 6 pledges with things that the people on the doorsteps can point to. You can only have 6, and also I think
What
it's a
happened
good
to the
thing.
5 mission statements? Can you remember what they were?
So it was about, oh gosh.
Yeah, struggling. Here we are.
Similar
Don't
to
put you on the spot.
economic growth.
But they were woolly and dull, and that's why they've
I
come
think
out
it's
with
very
these
wise
6.
that he hasn't put more numbers on this, because what we have seen throughout history is that politicians, they are being caught up in a trap when they put a number on things before going into government. If they were already in government, I would say, sure, you can do better planning, you know exactly what you're going to find out when you are there. But since they're not, I don't think they should be doing that. The Public Accounts Committee Chair, Margaret Hodge, said there will probably be, if you close the tax loopholes properly, there will probably be a lot more money that we're thinking at the moment. So I think this is a very wise move.
Tax loopholes, I mean, how many times have we heard that
Yeah,
one?
we have.
I mean, that's every
Gordon
single
Brown was doing
budget.
them.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing that for 20 years and they never seem to get closed. But also, I think it's an admission there that you don't put numbers on it because you know you can't meet these big targets. So, if you're not confident in your ability to flesh out these policies, it's because you know you actually haven't got the capacity to deliver on them. And I think, let's be honest, 6 pledges here. Keir Starmer made 10 pledges when he stood for leader.
And
He stood on 10 leadership pledges that were very, very left-wing and then has ditched them. So how can we trust anything he says?
I can also smell a gimmick. So what do you think the gimmick's going to be today? Who are they going to unveil? Not
well,
a
this is it.
defector.
I mean, everyone's thinking, oh, is it a defector? Is it a defector? That seems to have kind of died a death.
Right.
So is it a member of the public who, has got some great story to tell? Is it a celebrity?
A doctor, celebrity.
Exactly,
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think there'll be a gimmick?
Fun.
Yeah.
I doubt it because it's Keir Starmer, and I think he's right not
Well, you
to
don't
be
think
more
he's fun?
I think he's very cautious, and I think that this is wise, especially because the type of voter, the hero voter that they're referring to, that goes from Labour to Tories, that they're trying to soon, is someone who is also very cautious, especially older voters. They want stability and safety. They don't want surprises.
I'm just looking at the original 5 pledges from February to see how they've changed. Clean energy. He's still talking about that.
Yeah.
Highest G7 growth. Maybe that went over people's heads a little bit. Future of the NHS.
Vague.
Opportunity for all.
Vague.
Safer streets.
Yeah, well.
So
None of those are on the pledge card.
Slightly massage them a little bit,
Absolutely.
wound them down, and anyway.
It's a rebrand.
It is.
It is a rebrand,
Yeah.
but without enough, I don't think, enough values, vision, ideology.
Well, we'll see. Now, coming up next, a Czech billionaire is being lined up to buy the Royal Mail. Has the government gone mad? Put a stop to this. Shouldn't some national institutions be immune from these sort of profit-making enterprises? We're going to be talking to a major trade union boss who I think will take that view.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Let's do the Telegraph. And Iranian women are grassing up other women for wearing fitted trousers. Are there no roles left for patriarchal oppressors to actually be men, Jonathan? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're taking all of our hid jobs. It doesn't work.
Oh, that kind of works.
That kind of works, OK.
It's close
right.
to a joke.
The headline is, Iranian women are betraying others to morality police for wearing fitted trousers. So a hardline Iranian militia is hiring women to enforce the country's strict hijab rules, using them to spy on other women and bundle offenders into vans to be taken for interrogation. Now, this is horrible. This is just despicable theocratic tyranny where women are, helping to stomp on the rights of other women. They're despicable snitches, in my opinion. This is not good. This is not good. This is, this is really just an affront to women's rights.
Okay.
And I disagree with it.
Well, just for balance.
Yeah.
I've got to give balance, it's my job. I mean, one of the women here is saying, look, we should intimidate them so they stop going out as if it's Paris or London. And you look at Paris and London these days, Leo, cultural decline, you're like, hey, maybe they've got a point.
No, I mean, I think if you look at Paris and London, would you be able to tell the difference between that and Tehran?
That's another point. But, one I was making, and I deplore it and disavow it.
But yeah, basically, women love judging each other.
I've written that.
They do. Yeah. They do. And all patriarchal religions have been maintained and upheld by women.
To be fair,
it's not women. It's not men deciding to go to church on a Sunday. It's women, because the whole system is set up to benefit
women are more traditionally concerned about social standards.
Yeah.
The only people who shouted at me to put on a face mask during COVID were the ladies.
It is disturbing because, of course, Iran didn't used to have this. We all see those pictures from the 70s or whatever it is when they're just like, it looks like a Western country.
Yeah.
So it is quite disturbing, especially to have other people snitching and enforcing. That's what I don't like.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
No, I can't stand the thought of this. The Royal Mail, been around since the reign of Henry VIII, 1515, has revealed it's minded to accept a takeover bid by Czech billionaire Daniel Krasinski, who lives in Czechoslovakia.
I don't know where he lives.
You don't?
No, is that where he lives?
He does not live in this country.
He does not live here. He lives in Prague, I think. He lives in Prague. Well, the improved offer from Daniel Krasinski is worth £3.5 billion. It will be the first time the Royal Mail would fall into foreign hands since, as Andrew said, Henry VIII set it up over 500 years ago.
Well, let's talk to the General Secretary of the Communications Workers Union, Dave Ward. Dave, morning to you. You and I often disagree on things, but I think you and I perhaps today may be singing from the same hymn sheet. I'm appalled by the idea the Royal Mail could fall into foreign hands, a billionaire who's rather a shadowy figure too, I might add.
So, Andrew, you're right. This must be of major concern, not just for the workers of Royal Mail, who will be worried about how it affects their pensions, their jobs, their employment. And also, I think customers will be worried about what it actually means for the services. And, Royal Mail is a UK institution. It's a critical part of the UK's infrastructure. So, of course, we're worried about it, and we need to understand more about what it all means. But can I also say that we are also not supporting the current Royal Mail Group board. And one of the reasons this has happened is because it is a failure of privatisation. And we may disagree about that, Andrew, but that's the reality of it. You can't say what you're saying and not acknowledge that it's been a failure. And that board's report yesterday was also not true. So the reason Royal Mail is vulnerable to such a bid is because it's been grossly mismanaged by the current board, something that we've talked about on your show, on other shows. And for them to come out and say that it's all down to, on this occasion, a government that hadn't introduced reform on the USO for years. Every single postal worker, every single customer knows that's not true. Royal Mail inflicted financial problems on itself when it gave away 650 million when there was an economic downturn. It never supported the workforce. It's actually attacked the workforce. So we find ourselves in a problem here. We don't like what we're hearing. Of course, we're worried. We need to understand more about that. We don't like what the current board's direction is because they're not taking Royal Mail anywhere. And equally, you know, our view is it's time for the UK to have a serious discussion about a new model of ownership. And I think the government, the Labour Party, the public should all be part of that debate going forward.
What would that new model look like to you, Dave? Do you have any idea how you could collaborate state and private business in that way?
Well, I mean, our view, look, our policy has always been to see Royal Mail renationalised. But we understand that in the current political environment and economic environment, that might be a difficult thing to contemplate. But there are lots of other models where the workers and the customers who rely on the services that Royal Mail provide have a greater say over the direction of the company. So there's things like not-for-profit organisations, there's things like public benefit companies. And I do really think this is a serious debate about how do you protect and grow a business in the future that is so critical to the UK's economy. It's still a major contributor to the UK economy. I think our concern is that the current board have got no growth plans. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to hear what Mr. Kretinsky says in the coming days and weeks about his plans. Clearly, the government will take a view because it can't happen unless the government, after they've done a National Security Act investigation, sanction it. So we'll be talking to the government, we'll be talking to the Labour Party, but we want to get a debate going across the whole of the UK about what's the right position for Royal Mail going forward.
Does this Czech billionaire know anything about running a national postal service? By the way, all of which is embossed with the insignia of His Majesty the King.
Yeah, a very good question, Andrew. I don't know. I've never met him. His people have reached out to us for a meeting to discuss what they say are our concerns, to explore our concerns. So, you know, we've got to do that. We've got to engage with a prospective owner. But I think the other important point here is this is a full takeover. This is 100% ownership of Royal Mail, a UK institution, by an equity investor from abroad. So I think in that way it's unprecedented. And therefore it needs to be scrutinised very, very carefully. But if Royal Mail wants to be a success, whoever owns it, they've got to get the workforce on board. And the current board have completely alienated the workforce. And that still continues today. They failed not just the workers, they failed customers. They don't tell the truth about quality of service. That's still not what it should be. So look, there's lots of issues to discuss here, but we want to make clear that there is room in this debate for people seriously thinking about, is there a better model? Now, why does it always have to be, well, it can only be this person taking over or that person? Why can't we have a serious in the UK that is all built around aligning the interest of customers, of workers and the company that can be successful in the future? That's what we want to focus on.
We really want to hear your thoughts as well on these 5 pledges from Labour today. Six, sorry. It's normally 5. They've added an extra one. The extra one, though, is nothing to do with trade unions or workers. Do you feel a bit let down when you see this list?
Look, I think that we've got to be open about the reality that Labour listens to a lot of different people. It wants to get elected. My own personal view at the moment is that the most transformational part of Labour's policy offering is actually the New Deal for working people. I think they know that.
That's not in the pledges. But that's not in the pledges.
It's going to be in the manifesto. So let's wait and see that, whether it's in the manifesto. That's the real debate about what's offering. being offered. But why is it? I saw Pat McFadden being interviewed earlier on this morning. And I guess Pat's one of the people who, is sort of nervous about over-promising stuff. And, there's this debate going on with Labour. I don't get it, I'll be honest with you. The Tories have messed up the UK. They don't deserve to be a government anymore. I think the vast majority of people in the UK know that, but they're waiting to hear what is it that Labour are going to offer that's going to make a difference. And from what I saw of the pledges this morning, I think we're going to have to go much further forward to convince the electorate.
And we have to go forward as well, Dave. I'm so sorry, we've run out of time. Lovely to see you, General Secretary Communication Workers Union, Dave Ward, there.
Great to have him on.
We are going to bring you Keir Starmer's speech live. Get out the popcorn. It'll be an edge of your seat moment. Don't go anywhere. This is GB News.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. We start the day with a lot of cloud, some showery rain as well, but gradually through the day there'll be a better chance of some warm sunshine developing, and likewise over the next few days, a greater chance of warm sunshine, less of a chance of showers, but certainly across parts of eastern England into the North Midlands, northern England, southern Scotland, there's this zone of cloud and outbreaks of on and off rain. Either side of that, as temperatures rise into the afternoon, some heavy downpours will break out, but in the far south as well as the far north and northeast, decent spells of sunshine by the afternoon. Cool in the northeast, 15 or 16 Celsius with some low cloud hugging the beaches. Warmer where we've got some sunny spells in the northwest and towards the south. In fact, southern England, as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, looking at some lovely sunshine, and you can see the marked contrast there across Devon and Cornwall, sharp showers developing to the north, and this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain through the Midlands as well as Wales continuing. Northern Ireland, heavy showers or thunderstorms, and likewise for western Scotland. But for central, northern and eastern Scotland, that's where we'll see some clear blue skies and inland out of the breeze. It's going to feel very pleasant in that sunshine. Now, the cloudy zone with those outbreaks of rain across Wales and the Midlands, that will continue through the night, but the rain will tend to ease. It will turn more showery. Many places will see a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud remaining across the central slice of the UK. The best of any clear spells will be down towards the south and southeast, as well as across central and northern Scotland. Some mist patches first thing, certainly some low cloud along the North Sea coast, but otherwise, as the day progresses, we're going to see the cloud bubble up and break. We'll see some sunny spells developing, but once again, some heavy showers will form, especially through Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia, northwest England and western Scotland. Away from the showers in the sunshine, feeling very pleasant with highs of 23 Celsius.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M90 in Perth and Kinross, the inside lanes closed southbound after a lorry caught fire between junctions 11 and 10 from Perth to Craigend, causing queues. Delays are possible to some Calmac, Firth of Clyde sailings because of a technical problem. On the M62 in North Yorkshire, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident between junctions 34 and 33 near Doncaster. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is partly blocked northbound over the Humber Bridge, taking 40 minutes in the queues. Also in Lincolnshire, Humberston Road is partly blocked by an accident southeast of Cleethorpes, causing delays. Eurostar and South Eastern rail services into and out of St Pancras Station in London have been stopped because of electrical supply problems. On the M3 in Surrey, there's a lane closed northbound when someone's broken down on the exit at junction 4 at Camberley, causing queues. And the M5 in Devon's partly blocked northbound between junctions 31 and 30 towards Exeter, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 16th of May. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Bev Turner, and Andrew Pearce.
Starmer's 6 pledges. The Labour leader reveals his multi-point plan to rebuild Britain, including plans for Great British Energy, 6,500 new teachers. Is it more talk and no action? And what is missing from the pledges?
And the Slovakian Prime Minister was shot yesterday. Robert Fico, a well-known populist politician, is still in a critical condition after being shot and airlifted to hospital yesterday. His stance on Ukraine, LGBT rights and all sorts of issues around the pandemic could have been the motivation behind the assassin's attack.
And UK Island migration routes revealed that Britain has taken back 50 migrants in the Republic of Ireland after a large-scale diplomatic row. And remember, the PM said he wouldn't take back any. Does this show that Sunak is sunk on migrants?
And a southwest water scandal. Residents in Devon have been told to boil water before drinking or brushing their teeth. People are getting ill, sickness, diarrhoea, vomiting, even pets. How are these water companies able to get away with this?
A sense of panic and a sense of anger here in Brixham. More and more people are getting ill. It's affecting the old, it's affecting the young, and it's affecting pets too. The message from South West Water: don't drink the water.
Welcome to Delhi.
Exactly. You just think if you go to India, you might get Delhi belly. You know if you go to a country like India, don't drink the water out of a tap. How shocking is that?
Outrageous. Can we just say, first of all, as well, thank you if you're listening to us on the radio. If you're driving around this morning in your van, going about your business, going to work, going to the supermarket, whatever it is you're doing.
In your taxi.
You have us on your radios, and we are so grateful for that. Our radio figures, I don't want to brag.
Yes,
they
you do.
are outstanding.
She does want to brag. And they're doing very, very well. So we're very pleased. So do keep tuning into us.
Yeah, gbnews.com/your say for your comments. First, though, the very latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to you. It is 2 minutes past 10. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Some breaking news in the last few minutes. A man's been charged with attempted murder after Slovakia's Prime Minister was shot several times yesterday. Local media is reporting the suspected attacker was a 71-year-old former security guard at a shopping mall. Now, he's known to have posted videos on social media saying he doesn't agree with government policy. The Interior Minister believes the attack was politically motivated. Now, Slovakia has scaled back its support for Ukraine. Its open dialogue with Russia, and Robert Fico is known to be pro-Vladimir Putin. If you're watching on TV, you can see live pictures of the hospital where the Prime Minister underwent surgery overnight. At least 4 shots were fired at Robert Fico, who's 59, as he was meeting supporters yesterday. And now we can go live to Sir Keir Starmer. He is speaking at an event in Essex. He is laying out his 6 pre-election pledges. The Labour leader announced 5 of those last year, and he has added a sixth.
Great to be here in Purfleet.
Hear from Starmer in a moment. This is Angela Rayner, of course, the Deputy Labour leader, setting him up. What we expect to hear from Sir Keir Starmer is that he will say he's got his steps for change, if indeed Labour win the next election. A decade of national renewal is what Sir Keir Starmer is to announce, and they will go along these lines. One, deliver economic stability. The Labour leader is hoping to stick to tough spending rules to do that. He's also promising to cut NHS waiting lists. That's one of his pledges. He's going to provide more appointments every year, and he'll fund that by tackling tax avoidance and, we understand, non-dom loopholes. The new pledge, in addition to those 5 that we had last year, will be launching a border security command to stop the gangs arranging small boat crossing. We're going to keep an eye on Angela Rayner as she sets it up, this conference, this chat in Essex, and we'll wait for Sir Keir Starmer to arrive, and we'll bring him to you as soon as he decides to get on the lectern.
Tangible, deliverable policies to begin that long journey to national...
Now, let's bring you up to date with what the Education Secretary has been saying. Controversial changes to sex education, she says, will still allow children to explore ideas and have contested debates. It's after the government outlined proposals that would see sex education banned for children under the age of 9. The guidelines, which are subject to a 9-week consultation, also recommend children aren't taught about the concept of gender identity. Gillian Keegan says she's seen evidence of some pupils being taught that there are 72 genders. She says gender ideology shouldn't be taught as fact.
We're also making it crystal clear that it should be transparent to parents, and parents should be able to see the materials. They are the first educators of their children, so they should be able to see what's also going on in school. And we're also on top of our gender questioning guidance, which we published for consultation earlier on. We're also making it very clear that gender identity is a contested view and should not be taught as fact.
Causing death or injury by dangerous cycling is to become a new offence, punishable by up to 14 years in prison. MPs have voted in favour of an amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill, which is making its way through Parliament following campaigning by Sir Ian Duncan-Smith. The former Tory leader says the change is urgent and it's not anti-cycling. Well, critics, though, have pointed out more people are killed by cattle or lightning every year, and laws already exist to prosecute dangerous cyclists. It will apply to incidents involving pedal cycles, e-bikes, e-scooters and e-unicycles. The presidents of Russia and China claim their deepening diplomatic ties are stabilising the world, and they have called for a political solution to the war in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has been greeted by Xi Jinping with full military honours. It's part of a 2-day state visit to Beijing. It's their 3rd meeting in just over a year and comes less than a week after Russia launched a new offensive in northeastern Ukraine. Vladimir Putin says their strategic relationship is not opportunistic or directed against other countries, although China has long been suspected of supporting Russia's economy and its invasion of Ukraine. Junior doctors in England have held fresh talks with the government in an effort to end their long-running dispute over pay. Since March 2023, there have been a series of walkouts, with staff demanding a 35% pay rise, phased in over a number of years. Health Secretary Victoria Atkins says she's pleased the BMA, the British Medical Association, have agreed to explore mediation. Well, we'll bring you Keir Starmer as soon as he decides to start speaking, and we will be back a little later with more news. You can also sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen. Now back to Andrew and Bev.
Good morning, 10:07 with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Bev Turner, and Andrew Pearce.
Now, in a moment, we're going to expect the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, to unveil those 6 election pledges. They are not new policies, but they range from maintaining economic stability, more teachers, launching a new border command unit, in other words, another Quango.
Yeah.
Setting up, what is it, Great British Energy. How much is that going to cost?
Well, he doesn't tell us how much any of this is going to cost. This is the frustration, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's apparently going to crack down on antisocial behaviour.
How do you do
Great.
that, then?
How? Recruit 6,500 new teachers. Great. How? Cut NHS waiting times. Great. How? This is what's so frustrating. We could have sat here this morning and scribbled that on the back of an envelope.
And the thing is, he had the 5 mission statements, and we had our Labour advisor on and said, can you remember what they were? Of course you couldn't, because they were vague and woolly.
That's right.
It's things like we will have the best economic growth in the G7.
Yeah.
Make the streets safer. Something on education.
And he was talking about green energy, more renewable energy.
Hence
consistent
GB
on
Energy.
that.
So the state is going to set up its own energy company. I'm not sure that the state is any better at providing energy than private companies. Actually.
I don't know either, but going back to the story about the Royal Mail, I'm much more on board with us running from here with the taxpayer possibly benefiting, with the coffers benefiting from some profit in this country, rather than, at the moment, my energy's with EDF, owned by the blimmin' French government. I'm not OK with that.
And the Royal Mail, the Czech Republic, this billionaire from the Czech Republic is trying to buy the Royal Mail, and I think that the government can intervene, and I think they have to, because I think there'll be an outcry.
Yeah.
Because they've got commitments to universal delivery, and that the cost of delivering mail will be the same in every part of the country. I mean, they've made a terrible mess of it, as Dave Ward from the communications working group said. I mean, it's now £1.35 a first-class stamp. It's a scandal, isn't it?
It's a huge amount. Now, joining us now is our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, to tell us what we might expect this afternoon, or this morning, Catherine, any minute now. I think Angela Rayner's speaking right now, isn't she? What else are we going to hear from them?
Yes, any minute now. So we'll be hearing from Sir Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves, and these 6 pledges. Now, there's nothing actually new here, because Keir Starmer has been talking about his 5 national missions for some months now, but they were not terribly well defined, a little bit woolly. They didn't really get much cut through. So now they've basically rebranded them, repackaged them to make what they hope is a more voter-friendly offer. And of course they've added one. Now, Tony Blair, back before the 1997 landslide, had 5 pledges. Keir Starmer has gone up to 6. They're very light on numbers, no numbers really, apart from, of course, teachers. Perhaps that's deliberate, given the state that Rishi Sunak has got himself into with his 5 pledges. But these billboards that we see, Keir Starmer, black and white photograph, sleeves rolled up, looking ready to get to business, and these pledges in blue and saying, in red even, and saying, my first steps for change. They're hoping that this is going to cut through with voters, because we know, of course, they're 20 points ahead in the polls, but the Labour lead is actually really still quite soft, because a lot of it is because people are very, very cross with the current Conservative government and in the mood to have a change, rather than they are actively excited about or enthusiastic for what Sir Keir Starmer is offering. So they're hoping that they can change that. And of course, he's speaking in Essex, where they don't have a single Labour MP.
Very interesting. And that's presumably, Catherine, why they've chosen Essex, because they did very well in the local elections just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, exactly. They want to capitalise on that. We have heard all sorts of wild rumours, haven't we, about another defection to Labour. Over the last couple of days, there was some expectation that perhaps it might happen before PMQs yesterday. MPs were getting very excited on the Labour bench, sort of going, ooh, every time a Conservative came in, and they did not join them. Some speculation there may be somebody today. Let us see. I mean, I think it's unlikely, simply that defections are quite rare, although they haven't been recently, have they? Because we had Dan Poulter defect to Labour only a week or two before Natalie Elphicke. So let's see. But certainly they're targeting voters that may not naturally be Labour people. And the billboards with Keir Starmer and these 6 pledges are going to be popping up in target seats like Swindon, like Doncaster, popping up near lots of GB News viewers' homes, probably.
And,
of course, the last defection didn't exactly go well, did it? Natalie Elphicke.
No, quite.
Backfired hideously.
But then I'm sort of a bit baffled by Natalie Elphicke because she's not even going to stand in the next election. Why would she defect?
Because I think she wants a nice quango, which she'll get after the election.
Just a little think tank job, working with Labour.
Because housing is her area. And, I mean, it was just the most unbelievably opportunistic defection. When I heard about it, I was talking to somebody at the Daily Mail and said, no, she can't possibly defect to Labour. She must have defected to Reform because she's so far on the right. I mean, but she went to Labour.
But do you think maybe it was Keir Starmer saying, right, we are not who you think we are if you think we are a hard left party. Yeah. You can come to us because we will even welcome somebody like Natalie Elphicke. Maybe it was a genius move by him.
It's upset so many people in the Labour Party, and particularly his women MPs, because of the way she mocked the victims of her husband who went to prison for sexual assault charges.
Let's have a look what you've been saying at home. Duncan has said, 20 years ago, I would have been worried about the selling of Royal Mail, but now I say sell it. Absolutely useless service, plenty of alternatives. If someone else can make it work again, that will be great. But if it collapses, so what? Interesting, because we are using it less and less and less.
Well, it's because they're so expensive to post a stamp. And, of course, people now send emails.
Yeah. Paul has said Conservatives and Reform need to come together to stop the red lunacy from getting in. Margie has got in touch. Good morning, Margie, saying outrageous that Royal Mail is being bought out by a Czech something or other.
Billionaire.
With suspect background. What on earth is wrong with this country? What about sabotage, even generally compromise people about the fact that they might be spying on people? I don't know what the concern... To some extent, the concern with Royal Mail being bought by somebody who isn't British, I don't think there's the security spying issue. That's not one of the objections,
but it's an institution that's much liked.
Yeah.
And I just think, look what the selling off some of our... Heathrow Airport is owned by a Spanish company. Why? So many of these water companies and energy companies are owned by foreign companies. They don't care. The shareholders, all they care about is the dividend for the shareholders. I mean, massive underinvestment in the water companies.
Yeah.
And I just think it will be the death knell for Royal Mail. And I'm rather fond of posting a letter, actually.
Yeah, Sam has said the very idea of selling the Royal Mail to a foreigner is appalling. Yeah. It must not be allowed. Dave says, why don't we just sell the whole blimmin' country and be done with it? I know what you mean, Dave. It does feel a bit like that sometimes, doesn't it?
It's nothing sacred, that's my point.
Alistair, Starmer announces a wish list of 6 things with no detail. We've got Rachel Reeves claiming Labour with a party of business. Meanwhile, Angela Rayner proposes changes to workers' rights, which are profoundly anti-business. Interesting. I like that, Alistair.
And, of course, they were supposed to be coming in within 100 days of a Labour government, but they're now rowing back on that a little bit. And you saw what Dave Ward said from the Communication Workers Union. He didn't think these 6 pledges are going anything like far enough for what the trade unions want on workers' rights.
And Lou has said, in relation to Stella, our left-leaning commentator earlier, I'm sure the presenters have a memo when the left-wingers are on the show. Just let them speak, and even if it's complete cobblers coming out of their mouths, do not challenge them because Ofcom won't like that. That's not true, Lou. I can tell you it's not true, but contrary to public and popular opinion, we do have all sides of the political debate on here.
And actually, we challenged her on the six pledges, and she was very robust, I thought.
And I like to hear every side of every debate. We do. That's what we do here. I know some of you don't like it when we have the left-wing voices on.
Well, and having the Communications Workers Union, and he is on the left of the Labour Party.
That's right. We like to listen to all of everybody, and particularly you at home. Mike has said, how about my 6 pledges? Produce a British Bill of Rights and leave the ECHR. Return all illegal people as they arrive back to France. Brilliant. All major utilities without competition put back into national control. Railway workers and all civil servants fired and rehired on new union-free contracts. Build a speed, high-max, basic, low-cost prisons. Reinstate British steel to make top-quality British steel. How about that? And remove the law of commitment to reach net zero.
And of course, British steel is owned by an Indian company, isn't it? Now, still to come, Starmer is speaking a little later, and when he does, we'll bring you the speech live. I know you can't wait for that. But first, we're going to be joined by our panel to talk about the big stories of the day. Don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan from 8 p.m. Well, we broke the internet last weekend with my suggestion that Harry should be staying at his old family home in central London. Take a listen. Harry will not be accommodated at Buckingham Palace, even though it's emptier than a branch of Wilko's. So, where is he going to stay? The Ritz? The Dorchester? Well, his media gigs are drying up, so he might have to go budget. He might like the Premier Inn, where he can bunk up with the face of that hotel chain, comedian Lenny Henry. What a laugh a minute those two would make. How about a Holiday Inn Express, where he can enjoy the wide-ranging choice offered by the vending machine if he gets peckish in the middle of the night. And I'm delighted to say that Britain's favourite pub chain, JD Wetherspoons, now have rooms available in some of their venues. The Hotel Wetherspoons, where you can check out any time you like, but you can't leave until you've drunk 12 pints of old speckled hen and got into a fight with an off-duty electrician. Well, Harry's blink-and-you'll-miss-it trip to the UK, in which he was snubbed by his father, who, let's not forget, is battling cancer, wouldn't have done much for the young prince's increasingly fragile self-esteem. Crumbs. It's almost like you reap what you sow. Well, in a shock new development, the Express newspaper report that Prince Harry was left in tears when his father bestowed a major new military honour on his brother William. The Prince of Wales is now the Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps. If he hadn't burnt his bridges, that is a gong that would have likely gone to Harry, who served himself with the Air Corps in Afghanistan. In the end, Harry's week can be summed up by this footage of a Boeing plane landing at Istanbul airport in a less than elegant manner.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
Our job is to do what's in the best interest of our country.
You made my argument for me. My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
I'm hearing it up and down the country. That was a beginning, not an end.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
10:20 with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
We are joined in the studio by broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone and author and broadcaster Amy Nicole Turner. Hello, ladies. Right, what are we starting with? Amy, cyclists who kill. This is something that we all can relate to, isn't it? The idea that we don't feel safe amongst cyclists flying down the road.
I think we've all probably felt like we have been nearly killed by a cyclist a few times. So Mark Harper has proposed that cyclists get treated in the same way...
the Transport Secretary.
The Transport Secretary, are penalised in the same way as dangerous drivers. So cyclists who kill could face life in prison, and they should face the same penalties as other road users, because they are road users, so why shouldn't the law apply equally?
And they pay no tax, they're not insured.
No, but when you actually bury down into the detail a little bit, there are about 30,000 accidents on the road every year, and only 3 people are killed by a cyclist. So I think a lot of the
you say only 3 people, Amy.
3 people a year.
You say only 3 people, but there's 460 that are hurt quite badly by cyclists every year, which is a huge amount. And it's not a question of people just being killed, but this is Ian Duncan Smith's campaign, and it's come hot on the heels of the guy who got off last year because he was racing around Regent's Park as part of a cycling club at 29 miles an hour when the limit inside the park is 20 miles, and he crashed into a retired nursery nurse, 81-year-old Hilda Griffiths, who died. a few weeks later, precisely because of this. And nothing happened to this guy. The Metropolitan Police didn't even bother to contact the CPS to see if he should or could be prosecuted. It's outrageous. And there are no speed limits for these cyclists either. So that has got to be brought in. That's the very least that's got to be brought in. But, you know, these guys now are cycling on every day. There's a cyclist on a pavement coming at me from somewhere. And not just me, at elderly people, at mothers with babies, at people who are disabled. And it's outrageous and nothing happens to them. You know, 10 years ago, they used to get fined. Now they don't. Police don't. It's like cyclists are the gods on the road now.
It's like their judgment, like the personal responsibility of the cyclist seems to have disappeared.
Completely.
I think it's difficult, though, because the roads don't seem to really facilitate for cyclists.
Are you kidding?
Nationwide. Where I live, for example. No, in London,
no,
yes,
I'm sorry,
fair.
all over the country. You know, I go to Dorset a lot, and they're country little roads, and there's very few double lanes, but the ones that are now cycle. It's everywhere. Multi-millions have been spent to accommodate.
I think where you have good cycle lanes, for example, Milton Keynes, great emphasis, then there isn't this war of motorists versus cyclists quite as much. So I think maybe if we accommodate them more...
There's a cycle lane near when I walk to the tube, there's a cycle lane right by the tube. They still cycle on the pavement. I get in the cycle lane.
And, you know, some pavements actually have a cycle section on the pavement. They don't even use that.
No.
Because people are kind of close, and so they want to weave in and out and go quickly. There have got to be rules applied to these people. They should be paying for being on the road, one thing. We should be able... You know, there was one gentleman killed, and I can't remember where it was now, but he was knocked over. No one found out who the cyclist was who did it. Now, that can't be right. Cyclists have to be registered. They have to be on a register somewhere so they can be found and they can be tried or fined if they...
How do you do that, though? Like, how do you do that without a registration plate? Does it mean you have to have a registration
plate? Why shouldn't they? I mean, we have to have one. Car drivers have to have. You know, I should start off by saying I'm not against all cyclists. I'm just against
just most of them.
Just the lunatics who do not take the rules of the road seriously.
But that's why this should be fine with cyclists, because it's not a policy against cyclists. It's a policy against dangerous cyclists.
Yes.
But I'm sure they equally have a...
Let me tell you what the lobby, the pro-cycling lobby have said, because obviously, 15 years ago, my husband got knocked off his bike in America and had a terrible brain injury. So cycling safety has been on my radar for quite a long time, funnily enough. And whenever I'd raised issues about making cycling more safe, the utopian thinking from politicians and cycle groups, which is that cycling is always good for you, it makes you thin, it helps the environment, active transport. We must do nothing that would stop.
I think you're right.
So we don't make helmets mandatory, we don't put registration plates on them, we don't expect cyclists to adhere to same rules because we have to make it accessible for all.
And because of
that was the logic behind it.
And because of that, Bev, cyclists now have an arrogance, and they believe that none of us, either drivers nor pedestrians, should be in their way. And if you know, if you say to a cyclist, and I've said it many times, and I will continue to say, if I tell them to slow down, I just get the finger. I get told to you know what off all the time. It's like they're in charge.
Well, they'll say, well, I'm saving the planet.
Well,
and
exactly.
I'm
And
thin, nobody used their imagination as to where this would end if we didn't put some sort of...
Because of all those lovely incentives that you just listed there, I bought a bike not so long ago, but I'm terrified. I cannot go on that bike because I don't feel like the roads are exactly...
So do you drive on the pavement? Well, in which case, Amy, you shouldn't drive a bike. If you're terrified,
I haven't.
If you're terrified of the road...
It's just chained up.
How much did you pay for it?
Like £180 for this bike because I really wanted to succeed because I wanted to be able to do fitness on the way to work, whatever.
I used to have a bike. I wouldn't dream of cycling now. It's too scary. It's
terrifying. But I love those little fold-up ones that people have on the train.
Yeah, but again, it's terrifying.
And I think it should be the law that they wear a helmet. Well, there can be no argument against not wearing a helmet.
I actually thought it was the law.
No, it's not.
Talking of scary, should we talk about water contamination?
Oh, yeah.
Should we?
How is it possible, Carol, that in 2024 we can live in a country where the water isn't safe to drink?
I don't know, because I haven't got the story, so I've got no idea. I've not read it. It's not on our list.
It's in Devon, Southwest Water.
Right.
There's a contamination. It's giving people diarrhea, sickness.
Oh, yes, the parasite in the water. Well, but, Bev, you know...
We're just saying it's like being in Delhi.
But, you know, parasites... we have sewage. I don't know why we should be surprised, because we have raw sewage in the water all the time. And we pay these water companies multi-millions every year. I mean, you know... I currently owe Thames Water £5, apparently. I don't know how, because I have them on standing orders, so I don't quite know how. They're hounding me for £5, and yet there's leaks all over oops, my water. We are getting excited. We have leaks all over the area, and they have the cheek to chase the rest of us for 5-6 quid.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. Should be
this is down in Devon, in a seaside town, and you think, well, Devon, it's nice down there. It's not overpopulated, low population density. They must be able to get a handle on their drinking water, Amy.
But isn't this incredible that now, first of all, don't swim in the sea, don't swim in rivers, and now don't even drink the water.
I know.
That's been the official advice from the water company. Don't drink the water. And if you do, you have to boil it first.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Maybe completely. And you're so right. It is like in India.
Maybe we should have a thing. We don't pay for it. We don't pay for the water. Then.
I mean, you know, when you go abroad, you think, oh, I won't drink the water. I do.
But do you remember we were in India? We were looking at the rivers and stuff where the water is temperate, and the rubbish was literally a foot and a half high on top of it. And people drink out of that. So I guess we're not that bad. But the thing is, Indians probably aren't paying what we're paying for water.
Yeah, that's the point. We pay a fortune for it.
Is this an outbreak of cryptosporidium? When I heard that, I thought it was a type of currency when I heard that, which has been investigated. But then if you've got whatever it is, a bacteria in the water supply like that, I don't know how you begin to purify the bacteria from that amount of water. What must
be a chemical? It must just be a chemical, surely, to put in it.
But it's even affecting people's pets. So cats and dogs are getting really sick, and it's probably going to kill some of them.
If you're very elderly and vulnerable to a stomach bug, then you could be killed by it.
Surely, with these water bosses, these CEOs, this is criminal negligence. Surely this should be able to
I'm amazed that no water company boss hasn't been brought before the courts over just putting all this raw sewage into our water. But it's cheaper to pay to get a fine. It still works out. It's more cost effective for them to pay a fine rather than actually dispose of the waste properly.
And these are the guys in charge of these companies. These are the guys on 7-figure salaries who take £2 million bonuses every year as well. So the money that they could claim.
I was looking at the latest Thames Water. I know this isn't about Thames Water, but say these CEOs, I think it's like a revolving door. Sometimes one comes in, it's brand new, and could, in theory, sort it out. So I do think they need to be remunerated.
Should be like
a competitive cost, you know, because he might be the one. Otherwise, nobody's going to come in and be the boss.
In other countries, if the company does not fulfil its obligations, like giving people clean water, the licence is taken away from them. It's given to somebody else. Why don't they do that here? You know, take it off Thames Water, give it to someone else.
Keir Starmer's missing a trick in his speech later today. There's going to be no mention about the water companies, no mention, but he's going to be banging on about creating a British energy company.
Did you notice in that speech, I looked at them all, and it said the taxes are going to be, quotes, as low as possible. He said that he's going to antisocial behaviour. They're going to tackle that, but he's not saying how many crops they're going to think. He says we're going to keep mortgage and inflation as low as possible. I mean,
no specifics.
No specifics.
No numbers at all.
That's unfair, because if Great British Energy did, come out as intended, it would create growth, which is what we need to raise our GDP and bring down our taxes.
The cost of setting up a British energy company will be billions of pounds.
But then once it's up and running,
but he hasn't told us how many billions of pounds, and that's the taxpayer going to have to find the money.
Well, you've got to invest to make a bit of cash. We all know that.
Well, we will be discussing what Keir Starmer says with you both, ladies, in the next hour.
Who is Britain's sexiest man a little later with you, but we're not going to say yet who it is.
Is he on this panel?
It's not me, sadly.
Funny
just in case. Well, you couldn't be quite so cruel about
that, Carol. Your hair's looking good, though, Piers.
Well, thank you very much. Well, that's a compliment.
Right, we need
I'm not Britain's sexiest man, but Carol likes my hair.
Here is one of Britain's sexiest men, Aaron Armstrong, with your news.
Not sure I can live up to that. Good morning to you. It is 10:31. Aaron Armstrong here. A man's been charged with attempted murder after Slovakia's Prime Minister was shot several times yesterday. The suspected attacker is understood to be a 71-year-old former security guard at a shopping mall. He's known to have posted videos to social media disagreeing with government policy. The Interior Minister believes the attack was politically motivated. Slovakia has scaled back its support for Ukraine while opening dialogue with Russia recently. Now, if you're watching on TV, you can see live pictures of the hospital where Robert Fico underwent surgery overnight. He is a known admirer of Vladimir Putin and Hungary's authoritarian leader, Viktor Orban.
Over the course of the night, the doctors have managed to stabilise the patient's condition, and at this moment, further procedures are underway that should improve his condition. The situation is very serious.
Cutting NHS waiting lists and improving economic stability will be among the top election pledges unveiled by Labour soon. Sir Keir Starmer is about to use a speech in Essex to lay out 6 promises, which will include a new Border Security Command to tackle people smuggling gangs. The Education Secretary says controversial changes to sex education will still allow children to explore ideas and have contested debates. It's after the government outlined proposals that would see sex education banned for children under the age of 9. The guidelines, which are subject to a 9-week consultation, also recommend children are not taught about the concept of gender identity. Gillian Keegan says she's seen evidence some pupils are being taught there are 72 genders and gender ideology should not be taught as fact. The latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts or scan the QR code on your screen. Details also on our website, gbnews.com.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Quick snapshot of the markets today. The pound buys you $1.2674 and €1.1656. Gold will cost £1,883.78 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,411 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M90 in Perth and Kinross, the inside lanes closed southbound after a lorry caught fire on Friarton Bridge between junctions 11 and 10 from Perth to Craig End, causing queues. Delays are possible to some Calmac Firth of Clyde sailings because of a technical problem. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is partly blocked northbound over the Humber Bridge, taking half an hour in queues towards there. Also in Lincolnshire, Humberston Road, southeast of Cleethorpes, is partly blocked by an accident causing delays. In Norfolk, the A47 is partly blocked by an accident on the Acle Strait west of Great Yarmouth, causing delays. Now, delays of up to an hour to Eurostar train services and up to 40 minutes to Southeastern train services into and out of St Pancras Station in London after electrical supply problems. Also in London, the A4 Cromwell Road at South Kensington's blocked westbound by an accident causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sam Richardson is a singer-songwriter from St Agnes in Cornwall. Much of his music reflects a sense of frustration with life in a coastal town.
We've got a lot of empty shops in a lot of our town centres, which is sort of causing a lot of death on the high street. I know that's a problem everywhere.
Similar problems across the border in Devon. Ilfracombe is the most deprived area in North Devon. Twice the town has applied for levelling up funding. Twice it's been turned down, something North Devon MP Selene Saxby says is frustrating.
It's very complicated. It's not as straightforward as just throwing money at the problem. They're very deep issues.
For several years, the government has acknowledged that rural areas need extra help, but so far that help doesn't stretch to our coasts. The MP for St Austell and Newquay is pushing the government to change all this.
Truly local people are finding it really challenging because we often have sort of low wage seasonal work but very high house prices pushed up because of second homes and holiday lets, etc. And also, I think the disparity review that Theresa May carried out when she was Prime Minister highlighted that working class white boys in coastal communities are some of the most disadvantaged people in the country.
Struggling to get on the housing ladder, struggling to find work, struggling to be heard.
It's interesting that a member of the party that's in government recognises that, which is great, because it is a really important thing. But that government, for the last 10 years, has also cut £500 million in youth services around the country.
No one thinks the problem of coastal deprivation can be solved overnight. The issue of disaffected young white males even harder.
Well, South West Water is telling people to boil their tap water after hundreds of people were struck down with diarrhoea, vomiting and stomach pains in a seaside town in Devon.
So residents across Brixham are all being told to boil the water as a precaution, not only if they're drinking it, but even if they're just using it to brush their teeth or to cook with. So joining us now is our South West of England reporter, Jeff Moody. Jeff, Andrew and I are incensed about this story, how we can live in a country where the drinking water isn't safe to consume. What is South West Water saying about this? How can they justify this happening in the first place?
Well, they don't really know why it's happened. That's the first problem. They don't understand it. They say they're working as hard as they can to try and resolve the situation. But you're not the only ones that are incensed. The people of Brixham are particularly incensed. There's been a lot of bad feeling down here. Tempers are frayed. There's a real sense of panic that's setting in, as well as that anger that they weren't told for several days. In fact, South West Water told them to carry on drinking the water. It was only at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon that South West Water said, look, we're changing our minds. This is a U-turn. Do not drink the water under any circumstances. Make sure it is boiled. But of course, by that time, so many people had become sick. I mean, we're talking hundreds of people, old people, young people, schools are closed, cafes are closed. And there is a real sense here that it's very similar to COVID, because people don't understand it at the moment. The communication is very bad. They don't know what's going on here. Well, the alert was first raised by a woman. She's one of the first people to have suffered from this. She says that the conditions that she was under were horrendous. The diarrhea is horrendous, and then the pain afterwards apparently is very similar to childbirth, so a lot of people are saying. Well, the woman, Tanya Matthews, first raised the alarm because she tasted something funny in the water. She rang South West Water, who said, no, nothing to do with us, everything's fine. Well, I caught up with her earlier on, and this is what she told me.
Really bad, yeah. As soon as you eat anything or try and drink anything, it was just going straight through me, and I noticed a bad taste in the water. I also noticed in the local area that there were a lot of people getting poorly, so I contacted South West Water and asked if there was a problem with the water, and they told me there'd been 15 confirmed cases of cryptosporidium. And I wasn't happy with that number because it seemed like there was a lot of sick people. So I put a post on Brixham Fishtown, and overnight it went viral with over 1,000 comments of people within our local area that have been poorly. Even people that have been here on holiday, down for rugby weekends, were going back to their areas that they live in, and they were becoming poorly as well.
Well, the cars have been arriving here nose to bumper since first light. There's literally been no stop. The cars are just constantly arriving with people collecting bottled water, which they're having to rely on. But people have been told, A, not to drink the water unless it's boiled, but not to clean your teeth in the water either. A real sense of panic, as I say, and that anger getting worse and worse. And meantime, more and more people are falling sick.
Jeff, and I wonder if the people there realised that last year this water company paid their shareholders a £112 million dividend, which, despite being criticised for sewage dumping.
Well, yes, exactly. I mean, this area in particular has suffered so badly with the amount of sewage that's being pumped into the waters. Several of the beaches around here were closed for most of the summer because of these spills. So yes, that anger is very real. It's very palpable. You know, a real sense from people that this is the last straw, really.
It's Jeff Moody, correspondent down in South of England. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks,
we'll keep
Jeff.
you posted on it.
A spokesperson for the water company said, we're issuing this notice following small traces of the organism identified overnight. This is this cryptosporidium. And this morning, we're working with the UK Health and Security Agency, that used to be Public Health England until the pandemic, and then it mysteriously changed its name, and other public health partners to urgently investigate and eliminate the source. We apologise for the inconvenience caused. Bottled water stations will be set up in the affected areas as soon as possible.
It's just shaming.
It's extraordinary. Right.
And I hope they're going to get some money off their bills.
If you're there this morning, get in touch with us. Oh,
Yeah.
They won't get any. If it was me, I'd be stopping my direct debit straight
Yeah,
away.
right.
You come and chase me for my money, and then I'll have a conversation with you about what I'm going to pay you as you
Yeah.
poisoned me.
Now, up next, as it's revealed, Britain took back 50 migrants from Ireland after all. Remember, Rishi Sunak said flatly refused to take any. Is this an embarrassing climb down from the Prime Minister? You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. We start the day with a lot of cloud, some showery rain as well, but gradually through the day there'll be a better chance of some warm sunshine developing, and likewise over the next few days, a greater chance of warm sunshine, less of a chance of showers, but certainly across parts of eastern England into the North Midlands, northern England, southern Scotland, there's this zone of cloud and outbreaks of on and off rain. Either side of that, as temperatures rise into the afternoon, some heavy downpours will break out, but in the far south as well as the far north and northeast, decent spells of sunshine by the afternoon. Cool in the northeast, 15 or 16 Celsius with some low cloud hugging the beaches. Warmer where we've got some sunny spells in the northwest and towards the south. In fact, southern England, as we end the afternoon and go into the evening, looking at some lovely sunshine, and you can see the marked contrast there across Devon and Cornwall, sharp showers developing to the north, and this zone of cloud and outbreaks of rain through the Midlands as well as Wales continuing. Northern Ireland, heavy showers or thunderstorms, and likewise for western Scotland. But for central, northern and eastern Scotland, that's where we'll see some clear blue skies and inland out of the breeze. It's going to feel very pleasant in that sunshine. Now, the cloudy zone with those outbreaks of rain across Wales and the Midlands, that will continue through the night, but the rain will tend to ease. It will turn more showery. Many places will see a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud remaining across a central slice of the UK. The best of any clear spells will be down towards the south and southeast, as well as across central and northern Scotland. Some mist patches first thing, certainly some low cloud along the North Sea coast, but otherwise, as the day progresses, we're going to see the cloud bubble up and break. We'll see some sunny spells developing, but once again, some heavy showers will form, especially through Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia, northwest England and western Scotland. Away from the showers in the sunshine, feeling very pleasant with highs of 23 Celsius.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back, it's 10:45. So the UK took back 50 migrants from Ireland just months before Rishi Sunak said he was not interested in accepting returned asylum seekers. Official figures, go on.
No, they showed that two separate groups of 25 migrants who were arrested in October and February by Irish police while travelling from Belfast to Dublin in the Republic of Ireland are now back here.
So these groups, which included 3 children, were returned to the UK. 2 people were arrested by British police on suspicion of facilitating illegal entry to the UK. It's very disappointing, this, is it?
Well, I think if it stops there and that's it, because he did trigger a big row with the Irish Foreign Minister, but also remember the Irish courts has ruled that Britain is an unsafe place for migrants because of Rwanda. So the Irish government was then going to have to overrule its own court. We had that issue in this country, haven't we?
The layers of satire.
I mean, you couldn't make it up. So I think if no more arrive, fine. But I mean, he's going to have to stick to his guns on this. Otherwise, he's going to be rightly given a really hard time.
Yeah, we're going to be going to Keir Starmer in just a moment, who is setting out his vision for your country. You've been getting in touch at home. Marianne has said Starmer's 6-point plan. What does any of it actually mean? How is he intending to pay for it? The man is completely delusional. Sal says any voter Twitter believing any pledges or manifestos need to give their heads a wobble. There's no comeback for the elected party. If they fail, there needs to be a penalty for failure, but there isn't. And,
well, I think we can go right to Essex. He's in Purfleet in Thurrock, which is a tie on on Labour's wish list. So Keir Starmer is about to make his speech.
Thank you.
No jacket.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, I don't know about you, but I found those stories, whether on the videos or here in person, incredibly powerful, incredibly moving. Each of them stories about change. And Nathaniel, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're able to hold yourself together with that poise and that dignity and to cling on to that hope for other people. It is inspirational for all of us. It's really fantastic. Thank you for coming. And what Nathaniel didn't tell you is that just a few weeks ago, he ran the marathon playing a trombone. He is a music teacher. And Rob, thank you for your story, your contribution about housing and the importance of a home, that basic security, the base camp from which people can build their lives. It makes such a difference. It certainly did for me. And Haruna, yours is a story about change. To change from one political party to another political party is a very big thing to do. It's about change. Now, we have changed the Labour Party to put it back in the service of working people. And what we seek, humbly, is the opportunity to change our country and put it back in the service of working people. And I'm not going to give you gimmicks. There's no quick fix to the mess that the Tories have made of this country. But this is a changed Labour Party with a plan to take us forward. And I have ambition for this country. And like all ambition, that starts with first steps. First steps towards higher growth, an NHS back on its feet, secure borders, cheaper bills, safer streets and opportunities for your children. Because we have all had enough, the whole country's had enough of 14 years of failure, spinning round and round and round, going in circles. Chaos and division, feeding chaos and division. And that has a cost, a human cost. Will is a fireman. He lives in Milton Keynes, and I had a coffee with him not so long ago. He has a dream, an aspiration, if you like. It's not unusual. It's not unreasonable. He wants to own his own house, his own roof over his head. So he's not just a fireman. He's got 2 additional jobs. But he still can't afford it because of the damage that's been done under this government. He's at his wit's end. He said to me, what else can I do? I can't afford it because of what the government has done. He is paying the price. And he's not the only one. Alderhay Hospital is a children's hospital in Liverpool. It is brilliant. Some of you will perhaps have been there, will have heard about it. It's fantastic. Now, I went to that hospital. It's designed by children, by the way they've set out the wards. It's fantastic. The ward I went on to was the ward where they do heart operations for 0 to 2-year-old children. This is incredible. Just to go into that ward and to see tiny children, babies, having heart operations. incredible courage, these tiny beings. A brilliant NHS team working with them, absolutely brilliant team, doing operations that you and I wouldn't think were possible. Now, I found that really humbling. I found it uplifting, affirming even. A real reminder of what we can do at our best. But I came away from that hospital also feeling really angry when I found out that the biggest cause of children going into that hospital for operations between the ages of 6 and 10 is to have their rotten teeth taken out. Literally, more children going to that hospital for operations to have their teeth taken out because they're decaying than any other operation. They are paying a very heavy price for what this government has done. And that NHS team, that brilliant team, having to spend their time, their expertise, taking rotten teeth out, something that could have been prevented. There are so many other examples. We've heard them this morning, but they're across the country. And they tell a bigger story, a deeper story. A story about a loss of trust, of hope, of confidence even in our ability to take our country forward. And if we're serious about rebuilding our country and taking our country forward, we have to rebuild that hope, that trust, and that confidence. And you cannot do that with gimmicks, with short-term decisions, sticking plasters that just are put on the problem, but they don't fix the problem. It only gets bigger. And that is why, during the course of last year, I set out my missions for an incoming Labour government. The big change that we need to make to our country, to take it forward, to improve it, to make it a better place. Long-term ambitions, credible plans, fixing the fundamentals, and giving an incoming government a driving sense of purpose about the change that we want to bring about. Now, this is going to be hard. Sticking plasters is easy. Just doesn't work. But I've never shied away from tough decisions. I ran a public service. We changed it. We reformed it. Lots of people said you couldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. But we had to press on. We've changed the Labour Party and put it back in the service of working people. Country first, party second. Thank you. Because all ambitions, particularly our ambition to change your country for the better, have to start with first steps. And these are our first steps. They enable us, if you like, to look the public in the eye and say, this is our down payment on change. These are the first shoots of the change that you deserve to see. First steps that are ready to go, fully costed and fully funded. Step one, economic stability. Now, this is the very foundation of economic growth. Tough spending rules, yes, to keep inflation, taxes and mortgages low. Because if you lose control of the economy, it's working people who will pay the price. Liz Truss lost control of the economy, and working people paid the price. Just about a week after her mini-budget, I think it was a week, it may have been 5 or 6 days, I was in Wolverhampton with a young couple who had a 3-year-old child. And they wanted a second child to build their family. So they had identified a new home to buy. They got a mortgage, a provisional mortgage for it, that they could afford. They were excited about the future they were going to build. This Truss crashed the economy. Their mortgage offer literally went through the roof. They couldn't afford it. They had to cancel their plans. No more new home. No more moving on. Stuck. But they also made a much more profound decision. They decided that they couldn't afford a second child. Now, they're going to live with that decision for the rest of their lives. And I'm not prepared to allow an incoming Labour government ever to do that kind of damage to working people. And this isn't just about the past, because Rishi Sunak has not learnt the lessons. He says he's going to abolish national insurance. That is a £46 billion unfunded tax cut. £46 billion. And that's why I can hardly believe I'm saying this. Stability is change. And that's why it has to be our first step. The second step is cutting NHS waiting time. It is impossible to overstate the seriousness of this problem. Nearly 8 million operations and appointments are needed. 8 million. That means everyone in this room, everybody watching or listening, probably is on a waiting list or knows someone who's on a waiting list. That's the worst it's ever been. And we see it the whole time. I see it every time I'm out. On Sunday, I was travelling from London to Manchester. And I confess, I was on my way to watch Arsenal beat Man United away at Old Trafford. Can you believe it, Rachel? But we pulled into Knutsford service station, and I got out, walked in to get a coffee. And a woman recognised me, and she called me over. And she said to me, and she showed me, she's got an ingrowing eyelid. It's red raw, swollen, and causing her a huge amount of pain and discomfort. And she said to me, I've been waiting 18 months for an appointment for the operation, and I've just been told I've got to wait another 12 months. She virtually pleaded with me to win the election to do something about it. That's not unusual. There are so many versions of this story, whether it's knees or hips, whatever the operation may be. That is the price that so many people are paying. And that's why we have to deal with it. 40,000 operations and appointments every single week, paid for by cracking down on tax avoiders and the non-dom tax status. Step 3, a new border security command. Because the government has lost control of our borders. This year alone, 8,000 people have made that perilous journey across the Channel in a small boat. 8,000. That is a record. And let's be clear, nobody but nobody should be making that journey. Nobody. And it is a test. It's a test of governments and would-be governments as to how we respond. And there are choices in that response. You can choose a gimmick that won't fix it, or a serious plan that will get to the heart of it. And the government has chosen a gimmick. The Rwanda scheme cost a fortune, an absolute fortune, to deport less than 1% of those arriving by small boat. And that means, of course, that 99+% will not be removed under the scheme. And if you don't think the criminal gangs are saying that to the people they're exploiting, then you've never met a criminal gang. Because those gangs are vile. They're making huge amounts of money. They're putting some of the most vulnerable people in the world in boats they shouldn't be in and breaching our borders. So we have to be serious about smashing those gangs and taking them down. That's where the Border Security Command comes in. A new command with new resources and new powers, including counter-terrorism powers. Now, we talk about small boats. That's the language that's used. But if you actually look at the boats that are being used these days, they're not that small. They're being made to order. They're being stored in Europe. They're being moved up to the north coast of France. And then vulnerable people are being put in them for money by vile gangs. Now, I worked for 5 years as the chief prosecutor, as the director of public prosecutions. And I worked with police and law enforcement across Europe to take down criminal gangs that were terrorist gangs. These are sophisticated gangs, by the way. But we did it and we took them down. I will never accept that it is impossible to take down the vile gangs that bring people in small boats to cross the Channel, and we will smash it. Step 4, Great British Energy. Now, the problem here is obvious. It's the classic example, the textbook example of sticking plaster politics. Because just about 10 years ago, the Tories under this government said, cut the green crap. Remember that? Cut the green crap. And so they cut investment in clean British power. They cut investment. They banned onshore wind. They scrapped home insulation. And that left us really badly exposed. So when world events changed and Russia invaded Ukraine, we were more exposed than other countries, and your bills went up more than they should have done. I'm not prepared to let that happen under a Labour government. So we will set up Great British Energy, harness clean British power, owned by the taxpayer, making money for the taxpayer, investing in the future and keeping bills down for good. Step 5, cracking down on antisocial behaviour. Now, all my working life, when I was chief prosecutor and since I've been a politician, people say to me, Keir, this is low-level antisocial behaviour. It's not that important. Completely wrong. If you feel that you can't open your door, your front door at night and go out, if you feel you can't walk down your own high street, be comfortable and safe in your own community, that is massive. That is a big inhibitor of so many people. It's not low-level. It's really important. And that was brought home to me in Stoke when I was at the sixth form college. I was talking to 16 and 17-year-olds. These were girls and young women. We were actually talking about something else. And they brought up antisocial behaviour. And they said to me, we do not feel safe walking down our own high street in broad daylight. That is massive for those young women. They don't feel safe on their own high street in daylight because of antisocial behaviour. That's what losing control of your streets feels like. So we've got to crack down on antisocial behaviour. 13,000 new neighbourhood officers in your community with new powers, keeping your streets safe. And finally, step 6, 6,500 extra teachers, paid for by removing tax breaks for private schools. Because we have to prepare our children and young people for the work they're actually going to do and the lives they're actually going to live. And that will require reform to make sure the skills they get, they're taught, are the skills they're actually going to need in life. It also means we need to concentrate on creativity, on confidence, what a difference that makes, and resilience that all children and young people need. But we need to get the basics right. Now, the Prime Minister is very fond of lecturing us that we need maths to age 18. And given what he's saying about the £46 billion tax cut that's unfunded, he's probably right about himself. But the serious point is this: we haven't got enough maths teachers in our secondary schools for those up to age 16. We haven't got enough maths teachers and other key teachers. That's shocking. Now, I was the first in my family to go to university. I know the power that education could give us. Somerstown is an area in my constituency. Some of you may know it, probably most of you don't. It's between Euston Station and King's Cross. It's one of the most deprived areas in the country, probably in Europe. And the children in the schools in Somerstown can look out of their school windows, out of the playgrounds, across to the back of King's Cross development. Huge corporations in there. Google is in there, and fantastic facilities being put up for Google. The Guardian building is just there. They can see it, but they can never imagine that that's where they will work. That is a few hundred yards, but they can't make that leap. And I want every child, whatever their background, to think that success belongs to them, that they don't have to change who they are to get on. And this Labour Party will fight every day, to give those children a future which is fit for them. Thank you. So here we are. One card, 6 steps, in your hand, a plan to change the country. This is a message that we can take to every doorstep across the country. Every doorstep across the country. And make that argument. Decline is not inevitable. Politics can make a difference. Britain will have a better future. And you can choose it with Labour. Stop the chaos with Labour. Turn the page with Labour. Return politics to service with Labour. And with patience, with determination, with these first steps, we can rebuild our country with Labour. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you.
That's Keir Starmer delivering a real tub-thumping keynote speech. Soaring rhetoric, but no detail.
No detail, but tells us a lot about the vision for the country. So, for instance, talking about children in hospital for having teeth extractions, the main reason for children, and he talks about that as though that is a governmental problem. And partly it is, because we haven't got dentists. But why does he not also say children are the responsibility of their parents?
Right.
The family is at the centre of this country. And therefore, that is a very key difference. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's a very clear distinction. Children's teeth are being taken out, so that's Rishi Sunak's fault.
And of course, he, if you remember, one of the policy ideas they come up with is to take dental advisors into schools to teach people how to brush their teeth, which we laughed at because, again, isn't that what mum and dad should be doing?
Well, there's no sense of that, was there? It was one of those speeches, it was quite, you know, and he had some sob stories in there. Sad stories, not sob stories, that's not fair, but he had some real-life examples of people that have got difficult health situations they're dealing with, people who are in waiting lists at NHS. But I just think that's a little... We know that. We all know somebody. You don't really have to use those people to make your point about the NHS. It just feels a little distasteful, that, when you're rolling out people who are ill and saying, look at this ill person.
And he did say there are no gimmicks. Well, actually, it felt a bit gimmicky, and I did predict before he spoke, I said, I can smell a gimmick coming.
Yeah.
And it was to wheel out a man terminally ill with cancer.
That's right. Before we went to Keir Starmer, there was a gentleman, Nathaniel, who stood up and said, I'm dying of cancer and I had to wait more than 100 days for my cancer treatment. Horrible, heartbreaking. We all relate to that. It makes me angry, the NHS waiting list at the moment. But I don't like that, using a real person in that situation. I just think it's really icky.
Yeah, the other point as well about that, Bev, is a lot of people miss their cancer appointments because of lockdown. We know that. And the Labour Party wanted us to be locked down for even longer.
I'm so glad you raised that point, because he talks about chaos and division, didn't he? Chaos and division, this is a country. You mean like you caused, during lockdowns, more chaos, more division by refusing to hold the government to account or even questioning the decisions that they were making during that period of time?
Well, the only question was why they didn't lock us down for longer.
Yeah. You had an opportunity, Keir Starmer, during the pandemic. You had an opportunity to actually look at the science from a different point of view, or I would say from an accurate point of view, and to hold the government to account for the decisions that they were making. Then you could have seriously distinguished yourself from the people who are currently in power. You would have been popular. You didn't do it. So don't talk to me about division. You did nothing during that period of time.
Well, let's talk to our political correspondent now, Catherine Forster. Catherine, so this has been heavily trailed. The whole shadow cabinet is there. We heard from Rachel Reeves, who will be our first woman Chancellor of the Exchequer if, as we expect, Labour to win the election. Also from Wes Streeting, the shadow health secretary, Labour's deputy leader, Angela Rayner. Interesting that she could be so robust because, of course, in those 6 pledges, not a word about her revolution in workers' rights, which she said she was going to deliver in the first 100 days of a Labour government.
Yes, that's right. There's plenty of things not been mentioned. But I think what a contrast to the speech with the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, on Monday, behind a podium, talking about security, talking about a dangerous world, saying, stick with us, talking about AI, of course, one of his favourites too. This felt and looked very, very different to that, didn't it? And there's Keir Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer. The Sir is not particularly helpful to him in his quest to connect with the public because, of course, although he's way ahead in the polls, the Labour lead is quite soft. The public are not convinced. So this is an attempt to try to engage with them. And I thought it was very interesting. He wasn't behind a podium. He was on a stage, literally centre stage, surrounded by people on all 4 sides, roaming around the stage, sleeves rolled up, no jacket, no tie, talking from prompts are obviously put around the side, but, you know, very informal, trying to appear, you know, like an ordinary guy who is ready to lead. I thought, as you said, those personal touches. I mean, I think the thing about children, you know, more children going to have teeth removed from this one hospital than anything else was really quite shocking. You know, the personal touches about getting a coffee at a service station, a lady coming up and the waiting lists. You know, I think that will work, and they want to connect with the public. They want to have this lead, not just because people are fed up with the Tories after 14 years. They want people to feel that Labour are going to make a positive difference, and that's the message that they are trying to get across. Of course, we've had criticism for months and months and months. What does Labour stand for? What are they going to do? They are beginning to flesh out some of this. We're beginning to get some details. They say all these first steps are fully costed, fully funded. But, you know, there's not going to be much money around no matter who wins the next election. It's going to be very difficult for anybody, frankly.
Thank you, Catherine. Well, as he fleshes it out, I don't like what I see. I don't like what I see. It worries me enormously.
I think it was a better speech than Sunak's on Monday, though, because I think just the way it was projected was better. I mean, the Prime Minister speaking in some boring think tank with a boring backdrop, and he's not a great speaker, is he, the Prime Minister? And I can't even remember what the speech was about.
No, well, it's AI, as Catherine said. He always goes on about the AI. He's a technocrat in it. He's
and defences, because the country is safer. Better the devil you know. That's what he was saying.
And playing on fear, wasn't it? Everything's dangerous.
Because
everything's
what's happening in Russia. And talking of danger, of course, we will be able to bring you an update quite soon on the Slovakian Prime Minister, who I'm sure you will have seen or heard about, shot 3 times by a potential assassin in Slovakia while he was just literally meeting what he thought were voters. And the alleged assassin, what we can say, the man who was arrested, a poet.
A liberal thinking.
Yeah,
clearly
extraordinary.
A forgiving kind of man. Right, this is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prince Harry, remember him? He appears to have fully turned his back on the UK as he listed his primary residence as the United States for the very first time in papers published yesterday. So interestingly, Harry listed the date on the formal US residency forms as the 29th of June 2023, last year. So that was the very same day he was kicked out of Frogmore Cottage in Great Windsor Park by his dad, the King. Charlotte, thank you for joining me. Okay. Are we just putting two and two together here with the significance of this date? Because there were stories during the rounds today that Harry chose that date specifically because he was so hurt about being booted out of Frogmore by his dad.
Yeah, I mean, to me it feels like he's trolling his dad a bit, because he could have said that he's been a US resident since 2020 when he quit the UK and moved to the States, but instead he chose the exact day that his dad kicked him out of Frogmore. But the reason his dad kicked him out of Frogmore was because he'd slagged off Camilla in Spare. And, you know, and his dad, apparently it was a really difficult decision for Charles, because, of course, no dad wants to kick their son out of their home. But he went beyond the pale. So Charles took the difficult decision to say, look, Frogmore's been empty for years anyway. We've spent £2.4 million doing it up for you. And now you've, you know, insulted our family in your book, Spare. Why is he so hung up on Frogmore? Because this is the country he was desperate to get away from. This is a house he didn't particularly want to live in and, in fact, didn't live in.
Well, he was forced, by the way, to pay £2.5 million to fund the renovations after it all kicked off. I mean, would that have anything to do with...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that sort of galvanised his anger towards the whole situation. He thought he was getting a fantastic freebie. And there was, you know, there were a few reports at the time that Meghan actually thought she was moving into Frogmore House, which is a much grander property. And she sort of felt a bit sort of tricked or confused and hadn't quite realised it was actually a cottage, which is only a mere, I think it was only a mere 8 bedrooms.
Friday nights on GB News with Dubes & Co from 6, followed by Lee Anderson's Real World at 7. At 8, it's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. And at 9, join Patrick Christie's Tonight, followed by Headliners at 11, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
(11:19). You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
So Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico has undergone hours of surgery after being shot in an assassination attempt that prompted warnings across Europe of rising political violence.
He's a veteran populist politician. He was returned to power in Slovakia after elections last year. His success fuelled in part by promises to halt military aid to Ukraine, which is next door, criticism of sanctions targeting Russia, and campaigns against LGBTQ rights.
So authorities have said they suspect the attack had political motivations. Joining me now is Robert Fox, defence editor of the Evening Standard. Good morning, Robert. Great to see you. I mean, in some ways, it's surprising that these sorts of attempts on our global leaders don't happen more often. The footage is absolutely shocking, though, isn't it? What do we know about this Prime Minister and who his attacker might be?
Well, he's quite high profile for quite a small country. Robert Fico, as you say, he's a sort of, he wouldn't like to be described as this, a sort of mini Viktor Orban, because he shares a lot of Orban's dislikes and enthusiasms, and they're both enthusiastic supporters, or have been in the past, of Vladimir Putin. Doesn't believe in an open-ended checkbook for Europe supporting, by that I mean EU, Europe, supporting Ukraine, and he's against liberal LGBTQ legislation. But this seems to have been about censorship, control of the media, closing down or restricting the Slovak equivalent of the BBC, the public broadcaster. We know little about the man who has been charged, we are told, with an attempted assassination, which is surprising because you usually find out what his name is, where he lives, and what his profession is. But this man is said to be a 71-year-old, now get this, security guard who is also a poet. He has written 2 volumes of poetry, apparently. An alleged son has been speaking to the Slovak media, said he knew his father owned a gun. He didn't know what his father was up to. By the way, what I think is one of the shocking aspects is how sloppy the close escort to the Prime Minister was, that this guy could get so close and personal in that he appears to have been well known to the authorities. He has criticised publicly and he's been on media.
Gosh, there'll be quite a few powerful people that may not have shed a tear, though, at the shooting of Fico, because he's been a thorn in the side of people such as the World Health Organization. He's rejected the pandemic treaty.
Oh, come on, I don't think the World Health Organization goes out and hires guns.
No. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not suggesting they're involved in the shooting, but what I'm saying is the political ramifications of this is that there will be some people who won't have greeted this with disappointment during the pandemic, that he's asking very uncomfortable questions of some very powerful people.
Yes, that's fair enough. But I think I'm not prepared to go down this rabbit hole with you, because part of the real problem with this now, which you have pointed to, is that this is feeding the conspiracy agenda, whether from the liberal left or the hard right. It is very interesting how Russian media has not exploited this at all. Putin joined with Biden in saying that he condemned this, and this was not the right thing to do. At least we're getting somewhere there. But the problem is, as we're suggesting, is this feeds into the dark web, the social media agenda, that there are dark forces at work here. What we have got to find out, and it's pointing this way, this may have been a very nasty aspect of very, very national Slovak politics. I don't think it was even, from what we understand about the motivation of the character involved and the group, he belonged to the Rainbow Literary Society. I don't think they're known over much. I may be completely wrong for mixing it in the dispute between the West or Europe, NATO, and Putin over Ukraine. But sure as anything, it will be used for that. We must think about whether Fico himself is out of the game now. I mean, he's in a very bad case. 5 hour surgery, 5 bullets. But both sides have come together in the political arena in Slovakia, condemning it, supporting things. The opposition parties, deeply opposed to Fico and his politics, have called off their rallies for this week so far.
Good.
All right.
OK, thank you, Robert.
That's Robert Fox, Defence Editor Even Sound, and we'll keep you updated when we do get a progress report. Now, back with us in the studio, the journalist and broadcaster Karen Malone and Amy Nicole-Turner, journalist and broadcaster and author. First of all, your reaction to the Starmer speech?
Well, I mean, it wasn't sparkling, but he's not doing an X Factor audition. He doesn't need to be Mr. Charisma. So I thought it was pleasing because he actually funded some of the policies so we can see how things are going to cost.
Which ones?
So we've got the NHS appointments funded by the non-dom status, which previously was funding absolutely everything. So I was very pleased to hear that actually the additional teachers, which we are crying out for, will be funded by the VAT increase.
There was a report suggesting the other day that the money he says he's going to raise from the non-dom tax is nothing like, because the non-doms are very clever people and they'll get their money out of the country a bit quick.
But I think he's also being quite serious about clamping down on tax avoidance. I think a lot of people are disappointed that it was quite the departure from his original leadership manifesto. No mention of raising income tax. He didn't mention the tuition fees that people were counting on a little bit. That's gone for sure. But it was good to see some actual costing, and I think people will be looking forward to a bit of opportunity, perhaps, a change at last.
Did you hear much costing?
Yeah. And what about charisma? Doesn't he have to have a bit of charisma?
I nearly fell asleep when I was trying to watch it. He's like Mogadon. They should put him on the National Health. You know, this guy has had he's been leader for, I can't remember how many years. You'll know, Piers, how many years, whatever. He's had time to prepare. He's had time to understand and learn what a leader should be projecting. You've got to, if you can't get people on board now, he's not going to do it when he's Prime Minister. And I listened to everything. I didn't think Amy says
they're 20 points in front, Malone.
Well, they are. But you know, Labour had been warned last weekend by Neil Kinnock, who said, you know, He warned against complacency. He said he doesn't believe Labour is going to win by a landslide because the nation is not yet in love with Keir Starmer. What they're saying is, we can't be doing with the Tories anymore, but actually we don't love Keir very much either. So I think that kind of, come the day when people have to put the thing in the box, I think a lot of people are going to hold their noses and vote Tory again, even though they hate them, even though they don't want them there, because they're not convinced by this guy. And what is terrifying about it, I mean, there's a story in, I think it's the Express today, saying, Hunt gave that for the pension pot thing. He lifted the what's it called? Yeah. For the £1 million pension pot, so that they could keep doctors and all the rest of it. He lifted that so that Sir can put his the lifetime allowance. It's called. They lifted that. Labour talked about putting that back. So the people who work hard in this country, the people who save for their old age, the people who put it all away, done exactly the right thing, Labour are going to punish them. They're going to take it away from them again, which is, and I know £1 million sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't in your pension pot, 20, 25 grand. That's not the answer to anything. So I listen to that. And it'll be taxed. And it'll be taxed. And the thing is, everything he said, let's keep mortgages low, let's keep inflation low as possible. I could say that. It doesn't mean I have to do anything about it.
But that working people plan, that is laying the foundation for some proper growth, some proper security, some actual social mobility, which will increase our prosperity as a country. Like, we need to have that foundation there, and I think that whole aspect, helping working people, really shone through.
Do you think he is getting through to voters? You see, I don't. So because although they're 20% ahead of the polls, you go knocking on doors around people, and I know a few MPs who are doing that currently, and people are not in love with Keir Starmer, and they're not convinced by him. They're not convinced he's going to do what he says, because his name, Amy, as you know, is Mr. Flip-Flop, because he comes forward with a policy.
I don't think it's a flip-flop. I think it's an evolution.
It's not. Well, that's very good of you, loyal to say so.
He doesn't even know how much money he's got to work with yet. I think that's the reality, isn't it?
He has ditched every single one of his 10 pledges, which he ran on the Labour leadership on. Every single one.
He's backpedalled on them all.
Not every single one.
Yes.
Tell me which ones stayed.
Every single one.
We'll dig them out and then we'll check which ones have stayed.
Right, talking of attractive men.
Ooh.
No, not me, my love.
Definitely not you, my love.
So this is a survey, Carol.
Yes.
Britain's sexiest man, according to the best online dating site for married people.
It is called.
Married people. It's called Illicit
Encounters. And Clarkson has come number one on this website. Jeremy Clarkson has come for the second year running, let me tell you.
Well, this is why we can't trust people to vote for them.
No, but you don't know. You see, I think this is good because...
Here's a picture of Jeremy.
No, you see, no.
Is that when they ran it with the headline, "The Pregnant Man" or something?
I think it was. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's slightly bigger than that now. I saw him on Clarkson's Farm 3 last week, and it's slightly even bigger than that. But this gives me hope for women, because it shows that women do not just go for great-looking guys; they go for funny guys, for guys with personality. Because to get this, to win this thing, he has beat people like Idris Elba.
Tom Holland.
Cillian Murphy, Tom Holland. But you see, Tom Holland is not a... He's not a heartthrob, really. He's not a great looker, but he's a nice guy. And I think this is good, because he came number 2, didn't he?
So he's 64 now, Jeremy Clarkson. But I think...
And looks it.
And looks it.
He does.
But he's funny, Piers.
He does.
Yeah, he is funny.
He doesn't look terribly well, does he?
And the farm programme isn't
I don't like Jeremy Clarkson, but I do definitely have a strange crush on James May.
Oh.
You are kidding.
I love him.
So the people who answered this survey are married women who are looking to have affairs. Those are the ones who like Jeremy Clarkson.
As a married woman.
What a strange choice for an affair.
Because, to be honest, I couldn't fancy Clarkson if my life depended on it.
Me neither.
But really, I couldn't. I like good-looking men, which is...
What about James May?
Not in a million years.
He's hilarious.
Not in a million years.
Maybe, I don't know what that is. Why would a married woman want to date Jeremy Clarkson?
Because he's funny and very rich and
maybe available.
Character.
Although his wife might argue.
But
his wouldn't be happy about that.
His partner is called Lisa, and she's hot, man. She's a great-looking woman.
She is.
So so she's there for something. So
And he's a brilliant writer.
And his
columns are great.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal writer.
He has a bit of a short temper.
Right, would you want to date Jeremy Clarkson? Do let me know, because I'm fascinated by the fact that he's come the top of that poll. Amy, Carol, thank you so much. Still to come. Is Chiswick in West London home to the best pizza in Europe, as the world's top 50 awards has claimed? Carol and I live there, but we need to test out the theory.
The pizza's coming in. We're gonna test it ourselves. Yeah, you'll be gone by then, Malone. Sorry.
No, I'm waiting.
First, though, Aaron with the news. Here it is.
Hi there, very good morning to you. It's 11:31. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Sir Keir Starmer says stability is change, as he laid out a series of top election pledges just a moment or two ago. Among Labour's promises are a new border security command to tackle people smuggling gangs, plans to cut NHS waiting lists, and also to improve economic stability. There was a commitment to set up a publicly owned energy firm to be known as Great British Energy, as well as a strategy to crack down on antisocial behaviour. Sir Keir says all the commitments are fully funded.
There's no quick fix to the mess that the Tories have made of this country. But this is a changed Labour Party with a plan to take us forward. And I have ambition for this country. And like all ambition, that starts with first steps. First steps towards higher growth, an NHS back on its feet, secure borders, cheaper bills, safer streets and opportunities for your children.
A man's been charged with attempted murder after Slovakia's Prime Minister was shot a number of times yesterday. The suspected attacker is understood to be a 71-year-old former security guard at a shopping mall. He's known to have posted videos on social media disagreeing with government policy. The country's interior minister believes the attack was politically motivated. Slovakia has recently scaled back its support for Ukraine while also opening dialogue with Russia. The Prime Minister remains in a critical but stable condition in hospital. And causing death or injury by dangerous cycling is to become a new offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. MPs have voted in favour of an amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill, which is making its way through Parliament, following campaigning by Sir Ian Duncan Smith. Critics have pointed out, though, that more people are killed by cows every year or lightning, and laws already exist to prosecute dangerous cyclists. Well, for the latest, you can sign up to GB News Alerts. The QR code's on your screen. The details are on our website, gbnews.com.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.2670 and 1.1654 euros. Gold costs £1,882 and 62 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is currently at 8,419 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Up at noon, good afternoon, Britain, with Emily and Tom. Morning, both. Were you riveted at Keir Starmer's speech
we were
this morning?
stuck onto every word. What an amazing speech of so much new information, fully costed, that I hadn't at all heard before. Yeah, no, that might have been a slight degree of sarcasm.
I think it was better delivered than Sunak on Monday in that boring think tank with that boring backdrop.
That's true.
But there is no charisma there, is there?
For you, Andrew, was it more Tony Blair circa 1997 or more Ed Miliband and his Stone of Doom?
The latter.
The latter.
I used to Blair
running through the whole thing.
Yeah,
in terms of the
Blair was incredibly telegenic and charismatic, and he was young and he was a good speaker. I mean, full of cliches, of course.
It's interesting, the sort of the white shirt with the sleeves rolled up.
I had a
look.
theory about this because I was there in the room at the Labour conference last year when this protester ran up to sprinkle glitter all over Keir Starmer. And I think that he might have actually been working for Keir Starmer just to add some pizzazz to someone who is often seen as deeply boring. But obviously, he thought the whole jacket off, roll the sleeves up, get on with the speech. That worked for him at the conference. Perhaps this is the new look. You'll also notice on the pledge card that they've unveiled today with those 6 pledges, again, no jacket, sleeves rolled up. I mean business. This is perhaps
getting my hands dirty.
The boon for him was
John Mater in his soapbox, which he wheeled out in the '92 election to great effect.
Do you know what we're also going to be digging into? A bit of a gear change. We're going to be speaking to the chair of the BMA Council. Now, he's written a blistering piece in the Telegraph, and it's actually on the front page, some of the analysis, the investigation here in that paper, because he's claiming doctors are being forced to choose between patient safety and their own careers, because NHS bosses don't want to hear any whistleblowers. They don't want to hear what's going wrong. They just don't want to hear it. And sometimes he claims that doctors are having to choose. So we'll get to the bottom of that.
Is there a culture of cover-up? But also, it is 81 years to the day since the Dam Busters mission, with a 617 squadron going over the Ruhr Valley, destroying 2 hydroelectric plants, flooding that valley, making a huge contribution to the war and weakening the Nazi war machine. A series of current RAF servicemen are cycling to the Netherlands today. Will Hollis is following them, and we're going to be live with those RAF servicemen who are honouring that remarkable RAF mission.
One of my favourite films. I love that film.
Yeah, don't think I've seen it.
Oh, it's
You've
great.
never seen it?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's great music.
Movie
We've got a
night.
little clip of it coming up in the show. So
Very good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, Emily and Tom from Midday. Don't go anywhere though. Quick break. We are still with you until 12 o'clock.
There was
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, joining me now to discuss it is the royal biographer, Angela Levin. Angela, welcome to the show. Hope you're having a cracking bank holiday. So it's been a year not without its challenges. A lot of health issues, of course, in the family. And yet, Angela, the royal family have come out of this more popular than ever with the British public.
Yeah, I think people have seen what King Charles is really like. He's not putting on any type of coverage to himself. He's been very open, extraordinarily open. When he went on his first visit since he was described with having cancer, he said to people, first of all, you know, it was a bit of a shock, wasn't it, when they tell you what you've got. And that's really, you don't imagine that a queen or a king would say that. It's usually kept inside them. And he's then had the most amazing gentleness and warmth with the people that he talked to. One woman, he took her hand when he was just finishing the conversation and held it very tight and looked at her saying, come on, you know, you can do it. It was extremely moving. And the other thing is that he dropped some of the sort of things that his mother would not have appreciated. And one of them was that there were 2 young children, about 6 and 8, outside, and they had flowers. One of them gave it to Queen Camilla, one gave it to him. And then he said, oh, well, thank you very much for your flowers. I've got a present for you too. Out came a big bag full of goodies, and he gave it to the children. And I thought that was a lovely touch, actually, something that they would probably keep forever. I don't know if it was just sweets. Knowing King Charles, it was probably something much grander than that.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News with Dubes & Co from 6, followed by Farage at 7. At 8, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg addresses the state of the nation. And at 9, join Patrick Christie's Tonight, followed by Headliners at 11. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives. Again, down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, lots of you getting in touch about the Starmer speech. Got to say, Bev, most of them not very impressed. Kit says the public are not fooled by Starmer, wandering around in his shirt sleeves with his posse clapping like trained seals behind. He is not and never will be a man of the people.
That's right. And Saz has said Blair, Miliband, Mandelson and Campbell, any of them could have written this. And I suspect they probably did.
Well, the Tony Blair Institute provides staff and speeches and money for Starmer's office.
Yeah. And actually, somebody clarifying this island migrant story, which I think is important. The immigrants were taken back between October and February. Yeah. And at that time, Ireland was classed as a safe country. So if we wanted France to take back immigrants, we couldn't say no. That would have been hypocritical. Ireland then said we were an unsafe country, which enabled us to refuse them without looking hypocritical. And as far as I know, we haven't taken any back since.
Yeah,
really
and since the Prime Minister said no, we were not taking any more, we haven't.
Yeah.
Tony says, listening to Keir Starmer with his 6 pledges, all sounds OK, but no detail. I need to know how, but this applies to all parties. And Mike says, we're all doomed with current choice political leaders.
Yeah. And John has said, having listened to that speech, I'm wondering when Keir Starmer is going to announce what he's going to do differently. Everything he said is already being done. Dave. Thank you, Dave. Good morning. Says there's no need for special Border Force Command. Just get rid of the Border Force and replace them with GPs, receptionists, so nobody would get in. I like that. And Pollyanna says, buy all time for work just in time. No, I think she's gone. And who else has been getting in touch this morning? Keno says, well, his word is used, but I can't say, but if nonsense was a commodity, Starmer would be as rich as Sunak, but he used a word that means speaking nonsense, but I can't say that on the TV. And Pamela says, Jeremy Clarkson, sexiest man. This just proves why you can't believe polls. Although Hugh has then said, Jeremy Clarkson's got more common sense than all of the MPs put together. You certainly do feel like he could run the farming industry better when you watch his programme.
His farm programme is astonishing. It really is. Now we're going to go back to South West Water because this is a growing scandal there. People are being urged to boil their tap water because hundreds of people have been struck down with diarrhoea, vomiting, stomach pains in a seaside town in Devon.
So residents across Brixham are having to boil water as a precaution, even if they're just cleaning their teeth. So joining us now, South West of England reporter Jeff Moody to bring us the latest.
Well, the cars have been arriving bumper to bumper here since first light. They're arriving to collect their free bottles of water that are being dished out. And there's a growing sense of frustration and panic here. Frustration because it took South West Water so long to acknowledge the problem. People first started getting sick 12 days ago. Somebody contacted South West Water and said, look, the water tastes funny and everyone in my family has very bad diarrhoea. South West Water did nothing about it and said, no, everything's absolutely fine and keep drinking the water. It was only yesterday at 1 p.m. that they finally said, look, we have found something in the water. You do need to stop drinking it. Don't drink any tap water at all. Make sure that it is properly boiled and also don't even clean your teeth with the water. Panic because people are very worried about it. People are getting very, very sick. The symptoms are very, very extreme diarrhoea, and after that diarrhoea passes, huge, very painful stomach cramps that some people are comparing to childbirth. Well, I've been talking to some of the people queuing up for water this morning. This is what they had to say.
I was already poorly anyway, and the kids, we've got quite a big family of children, so I've just come to collect for my daughter and for myself. Yeah, so 2 separate households. So that's 8, 9, 10 people altogether.
This is a fantastic piece of organisation, and hopefully we'll get through it as quickly as possible as soon as they identify the cause of the problem.
Well, to give you some idea of the problem, there are 16,000 people that live in Brixham, and apparently there's somebody sick in virtually every single family in town. That's how bad the situation is.
Thank you very much, Jeff. People are very forgiving, aren't they? That gentleman there saying they've got an excellent system here giving out bottled water. They shouldn't have to. I hope people have stopped paying their bills straight away.
Well, and I'm just going to remind people as well that last year South West Water paid £112 million in dividends to its shareholders, which will be not little people, it'll be major institutions, £112 million, which should have been spent, frankly, investing it in stopping all this pollution that's been...
Shocking. Right, still to come, what's the best place to go for a pizza in Europe? According to the results of a new competition, Chiswick. It's in West London. We're going to be finding out why. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. There will be some decent warm sunshine for many of us today, but also a spell of heavy, possibly thundery rain pushing its way westwards across central parts. That's in association with a frontal system that's currently just to the east of us. All this then making its way westwards, bringing some torrential downpours perhaps, and also the risk of some thunder. There will also be quite a few showers elsewhere, though across northern areas here it's looking a little bit drier and also quite a bit sunnier, with a good deal of sunshine, particularly across parts of Scotland. It's here we're likely to see the highest temperatures, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius perhaps, though elsewhere it's going to be a few degrees lower than this. As we go into the evening, we are going to see more heavy rain across central parts of England and Wales. Could cause some problems on the road, so do take care. There's the potential for more than 40 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Heading further north, though, across Northern Ireland, quite cloudy as we go through the evening. A few showery bursts here. A sunnier story for northern England and much of Scotland, though there will still be 1 or 2 showers around, and these could be a little bit on the heavy side. As we go through the end of the day and into the night, we are going to see the heavy rain across central England and Wales clearing away towards the west, and although there will be a few showery bursts overnight, for most it is going to be largely dry and there will be some clear skies. I'm not expecting temperatures to drop a huge amount, most places holding up in double digits, but there could be a few pockets of mist and fog first thing on Friday morning. Otherwise, as we go through Friday itself, then for many it's actually looking like a largely dry day. Yes, there will still be some showers around, particularly across parts of Scotland, and again here they could turn a little bit on the heavy side, but otherwise a largely dry picture, and again some decent sunshine breaking through. In the sunshine it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures a little bit higher than today for many of us, more widely getting into the low 20s Celsius. See you again.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
So a little West London restaurant has been named as the home to the best pizza in Europe outside of Italy.
Napoli on the road in Chiswick took home the crown at the World 50 Top Pizza Awards, which has just happened.
So joining us is Michele Pascarella, head chef and founder of Napoli on the Road. Good to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Congratulations. So what does the awards involve? What were you being judged on?
Actually, 50 Top Pizza is a guide. It's like the Michelin guide of the pizza. They got like hundreds of inspectors. They go around the world and visit secretly all the pizzerias.
You don't know you're being judged?
We don't know when they came in the pizzeria. We don't know nothing about... so that's why they are quite big, because they're really serious about these kind of things. They pay the bill. They never left something saying, like, we have 50 Top Pizza. And then that day you receive an email saying you are part of 50 Top Pizza in Europe.
Amazing.
It really is.
That is brilliant. So it's not, is it, did you have to pay to enter the competition?
No.
See, this is the thing. So many award ceremonies, you pay a subscription, you win the award.
So how long have you been making pizzas?
Okay, actually, I started making pizza when I was 11.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit for necessity, because when you grow up in Campania, south of Italy, you start to work when you are really young.
Right.
But then I loved it, and I still continue all the years long to do pizzas.
Did your mum and dad teach you, or did somebody in the family teach you?
We do some pizzas at home with my mum, but honestly, they do different jobs.
Right.
When did you open the business then? How easy? It's been tough. Did you open it before the pandemic?
It's been very hard. Actually, I started making pizza on the road with my food truck. When I was like 24 was 2016. And then in 2019, in October, we opened in Chiswick, just 3 months before the COVID happens.
Oh, no, disaster.
Yeah, but then we worked so hard. We had already 15 people that work with me. Be working alone like every day from the morning time to the evening time, making delivery. But then we're going through very well.
And how satisfying is it now to see all your hard work paying off?
It's incredible because we've been working very hard with team as well all these years, and being elected as the best pizzeria in Europe is something like you can't imagine.
So what is the secret to making a really good pizza?
I think it's not like a big secret making good pizza. It's just you need to start to choose the right ingredients. For example, we are seasonal. We just use a seasonal product. We change the menu every 3 months. We do a pre-ferment dough, so we left to rest the dough for like 36 hours. We're choosing the right flour. We work so hard when you cook the pizza, the right oven. It's a mix of everything, of course.
Right.
And so what have we got here? Can we try some as well?
Of course. So here we have the white capricciosa.
I'll have a piece of that.
Right.
It's lovely.
So this has got ham, artichoke,
ham,
olives.
artichokes, black olives. We got Napoli salami and shiitake mushroom.
That's a slice, isn't it, right there?
and this one looks very exotic.
This one is a special pizza dedicated to Chiswick area because it's called Chiswick. We play with the name. We got the fior di latte, the buffalo mozzarella, and then we got the buffalo stracciatella. The red dip that you see is a pienolo tomato jam that we did in the house. Then we got the blue Stilton and the Parmigiano Reggiano chips.
How fattening is that going to be?
Who cares?
She's tucking it. And the third one, we've got the third one there as well. What does that one?
We did just a classic margherita to try the realness of the dough, you know.
And which is the most popular one?
I can say that because we changed the menu every 3 months, actually. Yeah. We have the classic, they are really popular, like the capricciosa, the margherita, the salami. But we work so hard to explain people how the seasonal works, so also the seasonal one are really popular.
Well, congratulations. Let's just remind you, so where are you're called here it is, the
Napoli on the road.
Napoli on the road.
We have 2 places, one in Chiswick and one in Richmond.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just hearing the we love the Richmond ones. As people in the gallery know your restaurant. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, grazie.
Thank you.
Beverly Turner is now in heaven eating the pizza. Not sharing it, notice, with anybody.
You're meant to just take a nibble if you're doing a cooking show, aren't you? But I'm going to sit here and eat the whole thing.
Well, very good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well done.
Thanks.
Right.
Up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. Beverly can't speak because she's got a mouthful and she knows it's rude to speak with your mouthful. See you soon.
Oh, I'm very jealous of your pizza. We should get some for our show, but my goodness, busy show ahead. We're going to be live in the Netherlands at a Dam Busters memorial.
We are indeed, and are cyclists a menace? And should they get tougher punishment for rogue cycling? We're going to have that debate. Should get spicy, but we'll be back after the weather.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. There will be some decent warm sunshine for many of us today, but also a spell of heavy, possibly thundery rain pushing its way westwards across central parts. That's in association with a frontal system that's currently just to the east of us. All this then making its way westwards, bringing some torrential downpours perhaps, and also the risk of some thunder. There will also be quite a few showers elsewhere, though across northern areas here it's looking a little bit drier and also quite a bit sunnier, with a good deal of sunshine, particularly across parts of Scotland. It's here we're likely to see the highest temperatures, highs of around 24 or 25 Celsius perhaps, though elsewhere it's going to be a few degrees lower than this. As we go into the evening, we are going to see more heavy rain across central parts of England and Wales. Could cause some problems on the road, so do take care. There's the potential for more than 40 millimetres of rain in just a few hours. Heading further north, though, across Northern Ireland, quite cloudy as we go through the evening. A few showery bursts here. A sunnier story for northern England and much of Scotland, though there will still be 1 or 2 showers around, and these could be a little bit on the heavy side. As we go through the end of the day and into the night, we are going to see the heavy rain across central England and Wales, clearing away towards the west. And although there will be a few showery bursts overnight, for most it is going to be largely dry and there will be some clear skies. I'm not expecting temperatures to drop a huge amount, most places holding up in double digits, but there could be a few pockets of mist and fog first thing on Friday morning. Otherwise, as we go through Friday itself, then for many it's actually looking like a largely dry day. Yes, there will still be some showers around, particularly across parts of Scotland, and again here they could turn a little bit on the heavy side, but otherwise a largely dry picture, and again some decent sunshine breaking through. In the sunshine it's going to feel pretty warm. Temperatures a little bit higher than today for many of us, more widely getting into the low 20s Celsius. See you again.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally terrific £20,000 in tax-free cash to make your summer spectacular. You could use that cash to splash out on a holiday, make the garden glam, buy a new car, or just save it for a rainy day. Whatever you'd spend £20,000 on, make sure you don't miss the chance to make it yours. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 PM on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 PM on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 16th of May.
Keir Starmer unveils his 6-step pledge card to change Britain. But does it have the power of Tony Blair's 5-step pledge card or Ed Miliband's 6-point stone of doom?
Parasite outbreak. Panicked residents have been told to boil their water before drinking it due to contaminated taps. We're live in Devon to find out more.
And are doctors being forced to choose between patient safety or their jobs? Claims that NHS bosses are destroying the careers of whistleblowers. We speak to one man on the front line.
And Today marks 81 years since the bold, heroic flight of the Dam Busters. We'll be live with RAF heroes on a 300-mile journey to honour those who lost their lives and kept us safe.
What are we talking about here?
We are looking forward to that. It is a marvellous film, but also a marvellous story.